treasurers should not
be family members?
No, you said assistant treasurers and treasurers should not be counting money.
No, I said they shouldn't be your husband and wife.
Oh, okay.
No,
cool.
But you definitely can assign that as a part of your task to the assistant treasurers.
Okay.
I would definitely encourage it because it could be overwhelming for one individual to try to do everything.
Right. Okay. I just want to make sure I heard you correctly.
Oh yeah, no, you want to have your assistants involved. I will just give a suggestion. Here's what I did at the church where I was church treasurer, and I was blessed. I had 3 assistant treasurers, which in essence means that we have 4 altogether. Each of us was assigned a Sabbath, and then on the 5th Sabbath, all 4 of us were the counters. And so in essence, the assistant treasurer was the team leader for the second counting group. The second assistant treasurer was a team leader for the next counting group. And you even vet those individuals that are on your counting team. Now you may have to pull people from counting teams because sometimes people aren't present, but you don't want to pull a random Johnny who's at church, right? or because you don't know what their role and function is. And yeah, I may have known them. I've known Vanessa for 10 years and we're good friends, but I don't know what Vanessa's financial challenges are. I don't know what's going on in Vanessa's home. So I don't want to put anybody in a situation, which is why all of your counters should also go through a background check and be shared with your local church. Now, I know this may seem like a lot because I think I see some stuff in the chat. Mr. Host, is there anything in the chat that we need to be aware of that will help us as we're discussing? It's popping up, but I don't see it. I'm sorry.
No, ma'am, we don't have any questions.
Any comments that are, as we're talking, I'm just wondering, because I can't see it, but I want to make sure that if things are, I mean, of course, everyone else can see it, but want to make sure that we try to put those things in place if they aren't already. And if they are, we want to continue those processes and improve them as we move forward. Responsible for receipts of funds received.
Hold on, Ms. Marquita, Dean Wade has a question.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Marquita, and one thing that we do, even though the counters, we bring those names before the church board to be voted on.
Yes, ma'am.
So that we don't have any, repercussions with people seeing other people doing those things. So they do a background and they are the board represent and the church has to vote on those names.
Yes, ma'am, definitely. We strongly encourage that. We also, as a part of your check and balance, when people are counting, we have a suggested count sheet, but our sheet that we have when individuals are in that back room or however, that everybody in that room is signing that sheet. So if something happens with that deposit, you know that it was these 3 individuals that were counting that day. So yes, everything that you said, those names need to come before the local church board, who then brings it before the church, so that there's full transparency of who is seeing what information. Because even though you're keeping information private, that means you got to remind your teams as well, because I'm counting, I'm able to see what Sister Wakefield gives every week. I'm able to see what Sister Wade is giving every week. Okay. So responsible for receipts of funds received. You all know right now we're getting ready to start tax season. I'm sure all of you have already, I'm hoping everybody's already issued the receipts for the tithe and offerings that have been given by their members. Now, we all have our different programs. It may be set up where you ask the members if they want a receipt, that they need to contact your office to produce the receipt for them, but every donor is entitled to a year-end receipt of the monies that they have given to the local church. And how they use it is on them, but you still want to make sure you give your donor a receipt. And that, of course, just yields goodwill. You've acknowledged that a donor has given monies, and then you're saying, we also want to thank you for that specific funds that you've given, okay? I'm gonna keep moving because we got a lot for you guys, but we hope it is helpful. So I just wanted you to see just us a laugh a little second. As some of you know, especially before COVID, you're gonna get some of everything in the collection plate. Here's a church treasurer page. You're happy right now. You're getting monies and you're getting, hey, direct deposit. You may even get a little bit of candy, but then, you got coins. You got people saying, I'll write you a check next week, or don't cash my check till next week. And then you got buttons, you got stuff. And sometimes this one says people may put children in the offering plate. We know that never happens, but we will get everything in the offering plate. And as treasurers, it's also helpful for you to share with your members and donors. Here's the best way to give. So we're going to share with you some options on how to give and what should and should not be given. You as well may have to share with your local members. Here's how to fill out a tithe envelope, because they may put everything in one section. And as you know, the tithe envelope, the top half is for the conference typically, and the bottom half is for the local church. You want to educate your members so that they understand that the tithe or the conference money goes away and the local money stays. So you want to encourage them to understand the tithe envelope so that their giving can be spread across the board. So now we want to transition. We want to talk to you about you as a church, your taxes, tax exemption, tax ID numbers, and Vanessa's going to step in and talk to you about that. And I'll pick up where need be. If you have any questions, feel free to ask us. But Vanessa, tell us about church exemption and tax ID numbers.
Thank you, Makita. As a church, do you need a tax ID? Do you need your own EIN number? Yes, you do need it. Not the one for South Atlantic Conference, but you need your own. Okay, and as a charitable organization, you are under the 501c3 status, meaning when you receive donations, you're supposed to give receipts to the local, to the donors of the local church. And as a charitable organization and under this status, you are exempt from paying property taxes. Okay, when you use the property for religious purposes, meaning you don't pay taxes on the building of the church, the parking lot. However, if you have a lot sitting somewhere down the road and it is not being used for religious purposes, you will have to pay property taxes on that. If you have a land or building sitting and nothing is being done to it, or whatever is being done is not for religious purposes, you will have to pay property taxes on this.
And let me interject here with Vanessa, and we're going to refer to it in a later slide. But the property taxes usually come to South Atlantic, and then we send the bill to you. Why does it come here? All property should be deeded and titled in the name of the conference.
Mm-hmm.
And so if there are taxes, which we have seen a number of them, we send the bill to the local church so that they can take care of it. Now we need you to make sure you review that, because what can happen is property can get taken away from a church if you don't pay the taxes. Now, if it is religious, like Vanessa has said, you want to make sure you get that exemption for that. Otherwise, the state doesn't know that this property is being used for religious purposes. You have to let them know. We have to go through the same process with our campground. They tried to make us pay taxes, and we're like, wait a second, we use this for religious purposes, and it had been filed, but somehow it had expired, so we had to go through the process again. So make sure you are looking at that information, and if a property tax bill does come and it's attached to property that you're using for religious purposes, you want to start the process of getting that tax or property tax removed or being exempt. And sometimes they'll go back years for you if you file it appropriately. Okay.
Next slide. Now, where do you go to verify your tax exempt status for your local church or your school? You can call the General Conference office for counsel, and the name of the assistant is Maria McCoy, and the number is listed there. And when you do that, you will receive a specific letter. And as I said, your church, your school, and all Adventist center community service activities or building, okay? But if you are not under the group exemption, then you will have to go to the IRS website and apply. However, we are not encouraging you to go outside of the group, outside of the group tax exemption for your own benefit. And for us too, because what happened is, because we as the conference, everything that you own, everything, the church is under our name, we cannot afford you going outside of what we have available for you to avoid problem and issues. Next slide, please.
Well, I want to add to that for Vanessa, as you stated, you don't want to go outside. If you go outside, then you are no longer under the umbrella of church group exemption, which means you can no longer have insurance coverage. Your boards, the liability, everything lies with that separate 501c3. Individuals that sit on the board should not be affiliated with the church, because then there could be, of course, cross liability for that local church. So you want to be careful as you are having discussions. I know we've had some churches that have separate community service centers that we have allowed to get a separate 501c3. We encourage that you don't do that. You don't have to. If you're looking for a grant or anything, this is where you can get the information. A letter can be given to your local church. You can contact, as we said, GC, or you can call our office, and we'll also get that letter to you so that you can get the benefit of those funds. But we strongly encourage that you do not seek out your own 501c3 status. Now, this is separate from you being exempt from sales tax. This is under the charitable organization umbrella. Being exempted from sales tax is totally different. And unfortunately, within our states, our churches are not exempt from sales tax. Okay?
Okay,
We'll move on. I don't see any questions or hands.
next.
So we're done
Now-
talking about that, guys. Go ahead, Vanessa.
Remittances. The remittances are the funds submitted by the local churches that represent the local church tithe and other conference offerings. Now, tithe is supposed to be 10% of your income or increase. And it comes from the local church. And it represents the expression of God's ownership and our trust in Him. It is sacred. We can do whatever we want with the tithe money, okay? And it comes to the conference office. And we will see later, and then it is in the resource package, how it is distributed, okay? And the offering, additional giving, that stays in the local church. So we have the tithing and the offering. Now, as I said, the local tithe and other conference offerings should be sent to the local conference. And when it comes to reporting or remitting your money, all reports are due on the 10th of the month unless specified. All reports are due on the 10th of the month unless specified. If you're having challenges, if your remittance is gonna be late, you have to contact us and let us know in advance, because we have a report that we produce and we want to make sure that everybody is counted for. If things happen, please let us know in advance. So you can send your remittance via check, or it can be drafted by ACH. If you are not, if you have not signed up for ACH, please, we will provide you with the form so we can actually withdraw the money. still have to submit your reports, but the money, we can draft it. Monthly reports will be sent to the local pastor and treasurer. If you're not receiving those reports, please let us know and update our information so you can have a hold on the report, monthly report that will be sent to you. Makita,
And
you want
in-
to add something?
Well, in the resource packet, as it says, we also already have the 2021 remittance history reports and tithe and mission statement for your record. If, as a new treasurer, you did not receive that or you haven't been receiving, as Vanessa said, we want to make sure we have their contact information, because we do email that out automatically to our local pastor and local church treasurers. We also have the remittance schedule attached as well. So that's a part of the resource packet also. And so you'll see that as well.
And we strongly encourage for your church to sign for ACH. It makes life much, much easier for all of us. Okay, church supplies. You will need tithe envelopes, remittance form, and the Jewel software. For the church supplies, please contact our administrative assistant, Gwen Waters, and the email is listed in the slide.
Yes, and in addition, in the resource packet, there is a church supply request form.
Mhm.
You can fill that out and send that along with your request when you email Ms. Waters. My screen popped up. Is there a question?
Yes, when
chat?
was the report sent? Hold on, let me see. When was
usually-
the reports emailed out?
Okay, they're usually sent out around the 15th of each month. And as we said, we send them to the local pastor and the local church treasurer. But if you have not been receiving it, the last report that we sent is included in the resource packet. And so I'm glad that we're having this meeting now, because the next report that we'll be sending will be for January. So we're closing out right now the January reports. So when we send out the new reports, it will be for January, everything received for January 2023. I'm sorry, 2022. Okay.
Okay. Savings or debt resources. Now we know as a church, you may want to save, and as a church, you may want to get a loan to refinance and all of that. All of that can be done to the Southern Union Revolving Fund, the SURF. Now, you can have a savings account for the church. The interest rate is 1%. And they have a 90-day demand note for members and a 90-day demand note for the church as well. Now, I'm encouraging you to encourage your member to be part of this program from the union, because we do, as an organization, South Atlantic Conference and all the other conference, we do beneficiate from that. And if you want a loan application, you will find it in the resource packet. And the interest rate is 3.5% variable rate. And if you have a loan with the SURF, ACH is required for repayment. And there is a fee if you are not on ACH of $35. Now, if you want to refinance a loan, refinance a loan, you can do that through us. The third-party payoff. Now, we don't encourage the local church to go out for a third-party loan. It does happen, but it is not. It is not.
We don't encourage.
We don't encourage. It is not encouraged to go third party. Period. Right. But however, if you have done that and you want to to pay off that loan, you can use the SURF program to do that.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about loans a little bit more in detail when we get to building projects and borrowing and so forth. But this is just sharing the information with you. And as Vanessa shared, if you do start a loan, ACH is required. The $35 service fee is for those that may have loans previously before they started this process. And if you have not chosen to go on ACH, they are charging you a $35 service fee until you make that change.
Makita, if I'm a church and I want a loan, do I go straight to Southern Union and ask for a loan, or do we have to get South Atlantic involved in the process?
We have to be involved in the process. We're going to go over that in more detail as we get to building projects and so forth, but you cannot go directly to SURF. They will reroute you back to the local conference. And as Vanessa shared, the loan application, even the building process application, if you want to purchase, renovate, or even sell property, all of that is a part of the resource packet they want to give you so that you can have that checklist available of, well, where do I start? And how does this work? So it all starts at the local church first and foremost. Your board and church and business session must vote that we're going to borrow money, because once again, we're here to serve the church. So Sister Wakefield can't fill a loan application without the church being involved in the process. She can't borrow money in and of herself. Okay. And as we said, the 90-day demand note, 90 days just means that if they so choose, we've not seen it happen, it could take up to 90 days for you to get your money if you are withdrawing funds from SURF. And we do mail out the statements on a monthly basis to those that have accounts currently. And so if something needs to be updated, meaning you're the new church treasurer, please make us aware of that so that we can notify the revolving funds so that those updates can be made to both if you have a savings account with SURF as well as if you have a loan. Okay.
Okay, at this time, I'm gonna pass it on to Makita for incentives.
Nice.
We have some great incentives for you guys.
So we've been talking about remittances and so forth, and most of you, well, not most of you, some of you are new, but some of you are not. And last year, we did an incentive program, or we gave all of our local church treasurers an appreciation gift of $300. If you were the local church treasurer last year and you did not receive your appreciation gift, please drop a note in the chat right now. Mr. Orr will make a record of that so that we will get you your gift. But the process changes this year. We want to give you a gift again, but here is what's required. You will need to, treasurers who send all reports in by the 10th of the month or the designated date. In December, you will receive a check from us for $500 as the local church treasurer. So that means, like right now, today is February the 6th. If you as local church treasurer, you would need to get your report in by the 10th in order for you to start off correctly. So you have to continue every month with each report being received by the 10th. But let's say as a treasurer, you run into a situation where you send it on the 12th, and that's kind of consistent with what you're doing. You're getting it in before we have to close our books. We are then going to send you as a church treasurer, because we know all the work involved in closing out the process. We're going to send you a check for $300. Any questions? All minds clear? Makes sense?
Makita, what if I send 11 reports out of 12? Will I still get the $300? If I miss only one?
No. It's all reports must be sent in. So even though we're saying we're going to do it in December, we know that the December report's not due until January. We're trusting your record that you're going to continue the pattern of sending your reports in the time in which has been requested.
What if my church is under duress or under pressure and we don't have money for 1 month and we just don't have anything?
Nothing was collected.
Yes.
So if the church collected nothing, you still need to send in a report, but your report needs to say $0 was collected. And you have now met the requirement of submitting a report. So you will send a report in at all times, whether there were funds collected or not. Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. Is this something that we have to request, or
No.
is it done automatically?
it will be done automatically, which is why we are making sure we have the correct contact information for our churches. Last year, we depended on our pastors to get that information to us. And so we kind of had a delay, which is why we're sharing with you the same process and asking you for this information. So we're keeping a record, which is why, once again, as we shared on a previous slide, we are sending out monthly reports to you, which shows you when your report was received. If something's wrong on that report, because we're human, we make mistakes. We need you to reach out to us and say, no. My report was sent on the 5th. This says that it was sent on the 15th. So you check us as well, which is why we send out a report to you to make sure that we are governing ourselves as relates to when you've sent your items in so that you can qualify. So it'll be automatic based on when we are receiving the reports. Does that seem fair to everybody?
Yes.
Is there a question in the chat? I'm sorry. It's
No.
blinking on my screen.
I don't see any.
Okay. Sorry, it could be from previous time. Okay, I see someone says they did not get it. Okay, we'll check our records. Thank you for sharing that, Mr. Orr. Please make a note of that for me. But everybody's clear on it. It will be automatic. If there's a change in the role and function, let us know. We also had treasurers last year that said, you know what? I had a lot of help. I would like for you to give a portion or split it this way. We'll be happy to allocate it how you like as a local church treasurer, meaning if you say, I have 4 assistants and they are the people that have helped make this happen. Make sure you give us that information. Tell us how you want us to split the 500 or the 300 or whatever the case may be, and we'll do our best to do that. Or you can locally do that on your own. We had a number of church treasurers send in, notes to us and say, thank you. I did the following with these funds. And we said, praise God, we were able to bless them with that last year. But this is something we want to do, want to keep it going. And so we pray that it will be beneficial to you. We know what you do as church treasurers. It's a lot of work. And sometimes it's a thankless job. A number of us are volunteers, whereas there are some that get paid to do this. And when I say you're a volunteer, you may be receiving a little stipend, which we don't like to use the word stipend. So I'm not going to say that word again. You may be getting your expenses reimbursed as a volunteer, because those are the 2 categories. You're either an employee or you are a volunteer with reimbursable expenses. Either category, we want to say thank you from South Atlantic. So that's why we've created this program. If you have some other suggestions as a new treasurer, or even as a current or returning treasurer, share that with us. We'll be happy to see how we can try to incorporate some of those things, just to make life easier for you and to let you know that we appreciate what you are doing at the local church level. Okay. So now that we've talked about remittances and so forth, if there are no more questions about the incentive program, we want to transition to the different types of ways that money is received at the local church. So Adventist Giving, here we go. Everybody's familiar with Adventist Giving, I believe. It is the online portal that the World Church has created for our members and supporters to give donations. And all donations are kept private and confidential. When I say private and confidential, even South Atlantic does not know. We've had people say, do you know when Church X gives this? We don't know. Only the local church treasurer receives that information. We don't know the members that are giving. We don't have that detail at all. But I want to share some statistics with you. This is a pretty big number, isn't it? Well, guess what? This is the total amount of tithe and offerings that was received through the Adventist Giving portal last year. I'm gonna see if I can say the number. 238, is that million? $956,460. That is huge. We praise God for what he's doing, but let me keep on showing you some more statistics. That's a lot of money, correct. And a lot of churches, that equated to 5,221 churches. That was 100% of success for us, but let's make it a little bit more personal, if we will. South Atlantic, that's a big number, $22,048,721,000 was received through Adventist Giving by our South Atlantic Conference members and supporters. Amen. Thank you. You guys are amazing, but I want to hear back from you because here's where the real stuff hits the road. There are 128 of our churches that are registered for Adventist Giving. So that's 75%. We're at 3/4 of success. Praise God. We're so grateful for that. But I want to find out how is it serving you. I serve on the Adventist Giving board for the North American division. So if there are ever issues or challenges that you have had or experiences with that, please let us know. So I want to give you some more information. As you know, all the fees associated with Adventist Giving are taken care of by South Atlantic Conference, the Union of the North American Division. So last year we paid $47,521 in fees. What are the fees? There's credit card fees, there's banking ACH fees, and then there's debit fees. There's also NSF check fees. So of course, we're paying for those fees. At this point, we're absorbing it. I will say at the committee level, they are discussing, should we pass that fee on to the donor? Which is why we share with you as a local church treasurer. We encourage you to tell your members, we would like for them to donate either by electronic check or by a debit card. Why are we asking for it to be done with one of the two of those choices? The fees are less if we use those. It is much higher if we are using credit cards. So we're asking that you encourage your members to consider electronic check or debit card, okay? So we have 27% that we still need to work with to sign up for Adventist Giving. And with Adventist Giving, we're gonna go through the steps here. So here's how it works. If you wanted to enroll in Adventist Giving, you get an application from the conference, and we've actually made it easy for you. We put the application in the resource packet that we're gonna give to you today. And so once you get that application, you get a local church to vote the online giving. The local church will vote it, and then you would send that application back to the conference. We have to sign off. Myself, I have to actually identify that, yes, this is a local church treasurer, and this is the pastor, and this is one of our churches. So then what happens? As we just said, you get the application, that's step one from the conference. You get the church to vote it, and then you send the application back with a voided check. This is different from the ACH program that the conference has as it relates to remittances. We're going to talk about that in a second as well. What happens next? The application is then approved by the conference, and then we send it on to Adventist Giving. Once it gets approved, you automatically, whoever's email is listed on that application, you get a welcome and enrollment email sent to you directly with instructions on how to set up your profile. So here's where you set up the different offerings that you have as a local church that you want your people to give to, or you may have family in California that wants to donate to the local church. This is a platform that they can use to give to your church. Then what happens? You need to let your church members and donors know that you have an online platform available to you. Now, we encourage Adventist Giving because it's free to the local church. We know that there are other instruments out there that local churches are using. Right now, we are funding the cost of Adventist Giving, not any other platform at this present moment. So Adventist Giving is what we're using. Now, this is where this may pose a challenge, and I want to hear some feedback from those that may be using it that aren't new, or the new ones that have already embraced it. There is a report that you receive when a donation is received. Now, that can be a little bit annoying to you. I'll tell you why. As church treasurer, or even as the conference church treasurer, we get a notification every time a donor gives. So it could be 2 o'clock in the morning. I have my phone now that goes on sleep. So there's certain notifications that I don't get, but before I turn that on, my phone would beep because an email may be coming. And sometimes those emails were from Adventist Giving because there was somebody donating money, and we don't want to restrict when people donate, but you should, as a local church treasurer, or whoever your designee is, you should be getting that email notification every time a donation is being received. Now, that's different from the monies that are hitting your bank account. You should be getting a deposit twice a month in the bank of choice. And those deposits usually happen on the 4th or the 16th of the month. Okay? I see something just flash on my screen. I can't see it. Vanessa, do you see? Or did Councilman have to step away? Is there a question in the chat?
The person says, I'm not getting that from members.
You're not getting that notification. Okay. I would encourage you to look at your setup. There may be a button that you need to check that says email notifications from donors. Okay.
Mhm.
And if you are a new, I'm sorry, somebody else had a question?
This is Dr. Moses. I was the one that asked that question
Okay.
because I get it for myself,
Mhm.
but I don't get a notification if Sister John, puts in hers. I don't get that notification. I can go online and see it, but I don't get it in my email.
Okay, it is an option, so it may have been turned off before with the profile. I don't know if Adventist
Okay.
Giving was set up under you, but if it's something you want to receive on the front end, you want to be able to make that choice in your profile. And if
But
you're
it's not
getting,
required though.
not required,
Okay.
but what it does for you is it allows you to go ahead and record that deposit. Meaning you don't have to wait till you get the deposit, the total deposit from the bank. So in essence, are you getting your reports from Jewel? Are you getting a notification when Jewel makes a deposit into your bank account?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
I have to go back and check because usually I just go in and check to make sure it's been done. I haven't been paying attention to my emails to see if I'm getting something from them.
Would anybody else like to weigh in and share what their experience has been as relates to the donations and deposits?
Sister Makita, this is Caroline. I don't receive no email when it's deposited. I just go to the bank account.
Oh, wow. Oh, goodness. So nobody's getting, so right now this group is sharing that they're not getting a notification that funds have been deposited into your bank account.
Is that supposed to be
No.
on Jules? On Jules, I was supposed to receive that.
No, Adventist Giving.
No, I don't receive it
So
either.
it's only for Adventist Giving. We're not dealing with Jewel just yet. We're going to get there in a second, but this is only Adventist Giving. You should be getting an email from them that says $2,000 just hit your bank, and you can log into your profile to see the details of that 2,000.
So
No.
it should be going to the church's email.
Whichever email you have on file. Now, step 6 is I have here if changes need to be made. So in our resource packet, we also have an add or change form for you for Adventist Giving. So if you need to change, somebody else may be getting that email right now. So we can update that information so that the proper person is getting those notifications to be able to get into Adventist Giving. Are you using anybody else's login when you log into Adventist Giving? Like the previous treasurers maybe, or?
No, I'm using my own,
Okay.
but the email, I'm not getting it in my personal email, but it may be going to the church email.
I would
don't
double
know.
check. So we can request, I guess, information for you. If you'll drop that question or that request in the chat for us, Mr. Orr will make a record of that for you, and then we'll see if we can get the details on that information.
Okay, thank you.
Dean Wade has a question.
Okay, Dean Wade.
But I do get an email when there has been a denial of a check. And the problem I have there is sometimes, even though they have declined, and when you get your month, when you get the report, they have it in there. For some odd reason, it appears, which was last month, which happened. And evidently I did see where it was, they declined it, and I said, okay, but they emailed and said that do not put it in that monthly statement. But when the monthly statement came, they had put it in themselves. So when the next month came, which was in January, they pulled it out. So I am receiving some
Communication. So they probably said
communication.
don't include it because they're assuming that you got an email showing you that somebody had gave money.
Yes,
So they probably made that assumption, which is why they sent that initial email.
right.
But typically it depends on the timing. As you stated, if something is returned, if the timing is appropriate, it may be included in the same report. Or it could be where, okay, a deposit was made, but let's say it was made on the 4th, then on the 5th it was returned. So the 16th report is going to show those monies coming out, whereas the 4th report showed that it was coming in because it hadn't been returned as of yet. I hope that makes sense. I hope that didn't confuse anybody. But you definitely want to be checking that information, and I would encourage you to log in and see if those options have not been checked, if you want to receive every time somebody's giving, or the notification that funds have been deposited. Because you can log in whenever and see that information. And as we've stated, the 4th and the 16th is when they are putting money into your bank. I see another, is there another hand? Or did it just
No,
pop
ma'am.
up? Okay, let me try to clear this so that it stops popping up on my screen. Sister Wade, do you have another question, or is your hand up from the previous ones?
It's up from the previous time.
Okay, not a problem. All righty, so we're clear on the steps for Adventist giving at this present moment. And we're going to do some double checking as we share with you all. Of course, you want to make sure that your members know about it. So there is an app that you can encourage your members to download so that they don't have to say, I need to get to a computer. They can download the app on their smartphones to be able to utilize it. So you could be sitting at home on your couch or sitting in your car or sitting at church for those that are open right now, and you can give right there along with the other members as funds are being given through the local church. Now, the challenge that some of our churches have shared is the 2 deposits that are being given. When you have a lot of your members giving through Adventist Giving, that could create a challenge for the local church, because then you're not getting deposits but twice a month. Is that becoming a challenge? Because we are trying to figure out how can we do weekly deposits. But the challenge that we have on this end, when I say we, I'm not a part of it, I'm just on the committee, they have to clear the transactions first. And so right now it's about a 2-week process of clearing transactions, making sure that things actually go through before they make the deposits. And as you see, for those that have experienced returns, some things still get returned. And so that's where the 2-week window is at. It used to be once a month. They're now at twice a month. It is our goal, and as I said on the committee, we're trying to get it to where we do a deposit every week, because we realize that it could pose a challenge from a financial perspective for the local churches when all their money may be tied up in Adventist giving. Does anybody see that as a challenge, or you're good with the 2 weeks for now? Okay, hearing no complaints or challenges.
No complaint, I'm good.
Okay, good deal. We're going to move on now. We're talking about our giving platforms. And so I'm going to ask Mr. Orr. He's going to step in and start to talk about Jewel software. So everybody, I think, is aware of Jewel, but we're going to go ahead and transition there. And Mr. Orr, I'm going to turn the floor over to you, and we'll manage the chat and take host responsibility as you're presenting. The floor is yours, sir.
Hello, once again, my name is Kelton Orr, and I will be talking about Jewel, the software. So Jewel, the accounting software, is a software designed to meet the needs of, for you, the treasurer. Jewel also is provided by the conference for free, one more time, for free, so you don't have to pay anything for just the software. It helps manage finance, records, and receipts for donors, and much more. So, next slide. Oh,
The next one? Oh.
yeah, no, that's good. The benefits of Jewel, it helps, it's mainly for free, once again, for the church on treasurers and the church in itself. It helps with gives a handbook and tech support available. Remittance reports can be sent directly to the conference. One more time, it can be sent directly to the conference, so it can actually make the process much, much easier for you instead of writing down on a piece of paper, it can also, through the software, can be sent to one of our employees to review your remittance report. And it also, the receipts to the donors is generated automatically. So it can easily back up to your cloud. And then whenever you're able to access it or you're ready to access it, you can go back to Jewel and then reach for it. Next slide. Sorry.
Where to go?
So the other benefits of Jewel is also helping following steps: remitting ACH to the conference, reconciliation, and closing the month to year, and backing up this on the software. So basically, with all this provided by Jewel, it actually is meant to make it easier for you as a treasurer to actually distribute the information throughout the financial board and help get the information to the conference without any problem.
Can I just ask before we move forward to the tech support, how many, if you'll choose a raise hand option, or if we can see on the screen, how many are currently using Jewel? We can look and see, but wanted to just get a poll right now that you're using Jewel. Thank you, Dr. Moses. And when I say using Jewel, are you also using it to submit your remittance? Because in our resource packet, we also have the Jewel handbook. We have the Jewel support aspect of where and how to set it up for ACH, and just some common questions that come with Jewel. And if you need the software, you need to email us because we do send it to you for free. So Sister Moses, you're the only one using Jewel right now?
Also, Prosper Family.
She raised her hand? Okay.
Yes.
Mount Sinai and Sanford are using it also.
Okay, that's 3 people.
Also, Mrs. Thomas is using Jewel.
Archie Grimm from Shiloh, we're using Jewel.
Okay.
And
Jules as well.
Okay. For those that go ahead. What were you saying, Vanessa?
another benefit of using Jewel is it facilitates auditing.
Correct, which we're going to get to, yes.
Easy.
It definitely makes auditing more easier. Mr. Orr probably was going to reference that when he got to auditing section that, hey, I just talked about Jewel. It makes it a whole lot easier. But Jewel, as well, as we stated, it allows us to give you whatever support you need on your side if there are problems with your remittance. You don't have to fill out a remittance report or anything. All you do is enter everything through Jewel. There's also in the resource packet directions and steps on how to import your funds from Adventist Giving into Jewel so that you don't have to manually key those items in. And it's just to make it easier for you. That's our hope. It does, of course, allow on this side for you to submit the report, as he stated, electronically to us. We download your remittance. You also then can set up for ACH, and we will then notify you when your ACH is being drafted and go from there. So it's a pretty simple process from our end, but we hope it works the same on your side so that it makes it as smooth as possible. Our goal is to try to make these processes as smooth as possible for you, and whatever resources we can give to you to assist you with that, that's what we want to do. So in the packet, there's a lot of training and resource for these things. Go ahead, Vanessa.
I have a question.
Who was that? Okay.
Miss Caroline. I probably haven't tried, but how do you download the remittance from Adventist Giving straight into Jewel?
Yes.
Anyone does that? Okay.
It does do that. So there are specific steps in the resource packet that'll take you through that process. It's too many steps for me to go over right now individually. And maybe what we'll do is when we come back in our second session, because it's not a repeat, it's a continuation. We can refer to that if necessary. I can just bring those steps up, but that is a part of the resource packet so that you can see how to automatically import. So there's a file that you would download from Adventist Giving that you would import into Jewel, and that will allow you to be able to automatically have those offerings from those donors in your Jewel software. Okay? We'll make sure we get, I mean, that's a part of the packet, but maybe I'll pull that form up specifically so that you can see. If you're not using Jewel, it's okay, we understand. You still can sign up for ACH. That just means though that you will need to email to us your remittance report and say, I am ready for you to draft it. We have a number of churches that are doing just that. If they're not on Jewel, they do ask us, they'll send the report in and say, please draft the following funds. It's available to be drafted. And so we do allow or still honor that specific system, but we want to just encourage you to consider to use the softwares that are available to you. Okay, I know our time is winding down, so guys, forgive me. We have 5 minutes because we're supposed to stop at 11:30. So I am going to try to go as quickly as we can. So Mr. Orr, go ahead if you don't mind. We're done with Jewel.
Okay.
And we'll see how far we get.
All right, I got you. So the next slide, we're talking about accounts receivables and accounts payables. Next slide. So accounts receivable is money owed to you by the members, and accounts payable is money you owe to someone else. And then the following slides is also going to help explain to you the process and what goes by. So in this slide, we have the invoice. Look to your right of the screen, and you see a copy of the invoice that we sent out to the to the churches to show that what you're being billed for or being invoiced for. So for example, right here, if you see on the copy, it's talking about student volunteers right in the description at the bottom. And the amount is owed is $7. We're going to talk about student volunteers later on in the presentation, but with this, this is for you to have on record to know that what are you being billed for. So with AR, you are set up for accounts for funds owed to you, and if the members are checked is returned, it becomes an AR to you until it's covered. And with the AP, you receive an invoice and the bills for the service of your expenses you have as a church. Does anybody have a question about that before I move on? Okay. So statements. The statement is also something that we as me as the accounting is sending out to the church individually to show the breakdown of what you owe from year to date. So from January to today, you will receive an invoice. Listen out what you have on your statement, how much you owe, and what are you being charged for. It also helps keep track of what's being put on your account. So with the AR, you are sent out a statement that shows the total of records of the income owed to you for a period of time. And with the AP, when your invoices the expenses are not paid by the due date, the statement is sent to show you the total of what is due for your church. So once again, when you're looking at the statement, which is on the right-hand side of the screen, it will break down the items that are on the list. Does anybody have a question before I move on about the statement sheet that you'll be receiving receiving in mail?
And Mr. Orr, do I have to receive it in the mail or can I get it emailed to me?
Yes, you can also get an email to you. You will have to provide and let us know that you want to be, want it to be emailed to you as a treasurer.
How do I do that? Do I send you an email or what do I do?
So you can send me an email and then I'll put you on a list to send you the statements instead of me putting it into the mail.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Next slide. We're going to be talking about student volunteers. So Sterling Volunteers is only, Sterling Volunteers is the only volunteer background screening platform tailored specifically for the volunteers and sectors of the first online community to mobilize, repeat, and vet volunteers. So when it comes to Sterling Volunteers, it is a background check that we use by, which is provided by the conference, that we use to do our screenings of any employees or volunteers you have at each church. So the conference does take care of 50% of the service, but the church is also responsible for the other 50%. So as a treasurer, you should also be aware to write down and keep track of who is volunteering or who are you receiving a background check. So whenever you are billed or invoiced for Sterling Volunteers, you should be able to know who it is. And then also you can contact me so I can also identify who is you being charged for and how much are you being charged for each individual.
One question I just want to point out, Mr. Orr, thank you for saying that. And I know we're close to time. Do you think, guys, that that's something you guys can do? I know it may be a lot, but as a board, you know what ministries have various volunteers, hopefully, that are being asked to do background checks, because that's where the individual has to log on to Sterling Volunteers and they choose a church. We don't have anything to do with that. When we get the bill, it automatically says Columbia Ephesus Dean Wade. But let's say, and Dean Wade, I see your hand, so that's why I said you, but let's say Dean Wade actually goes to Charleston Ephesus, and there is no Ephesus in Charleston. But let's just say she chose the wrong church. You sharing with us, or you keeping a list, helps you, we think, when you get it from us, know whether or not this person should be assigned to you. So Sister Wade, go ahead. We can't hear you. You're not unmuted. There you go.
That's one of my concern is that we do not know, because when I got asked for to ask who was being signed, I saw where there was one person who's had several names. And my thing is, how do we narrow this down? Because they've used several names. I don't know if they weren't able to get in the first time and they used another name, and then they're charged with 2 or 3 times.
So let me make sure I'm understanding your statement. You're saying that Marquita Mosley logged in, didn't finish. She came back as Keita Mosley. That didn't work. So then she did Marquita Mo, and that one didn't work, or that one finally worked. So you have 3 names for me, even though it's one person.
Yes.
Okay, we need to talk to our vendor about how that can be done, because there should be some specific information that connects directly to me, whether it's my date of birth or even my address, that should say, hey, this is the same person.
That's, yes.
So we need to talk to our vendor, and what we can do on this side, Mr. Orr, as you're looking at those names, if it's that simple, where it's like, wait a second, this is like all the same people. We need to make sure our vendor. So thank you for bringing up that point, Sister Wade. That's a good point that you've made. Thank you so much.
Also, to piggyback off of this, whenever I'm usually the one that takes care of the Sterling Volunteers. Whenever I'm putting into our system, it does come out as 2 different names. But the thing is you're getting charged 2 different price, which is one is for 50 cents, which is, $1, which is half is 50 cents you take care of. And the rest is the $7, or I'm trying to remember how much the breakdown is the price. Do you remember, Miss Marquita?
You saw what's the breakdown for the $7 is?
Yes. So
well, it depends on the type of background that they're doing. There are 2 types. So if I'm dealing with children, or if there's one for a driver questionnaire, or if it's money, but it still should have my name.
Yes, it should still have your name, but there are going to be times that it's going to come up as 2 different people. So I'm going to we will reach out to the vendor to see, to clarify what's going on.
Awesome. And I see somebody, Dr. Moses, I've made a note, you said you have that same problem. We're going to talk to the vendor to see how that can be resolved so that we can get that fixed for you all. So that we don't want you being billed double or the duplication of billing for the same person. There has to be something in the system that can help identify that this is one person. I know our time is up. I want to let Mr. Orr do his last slide here, and then we're going to let you go for lunch.
Okay, the last slide here is invoicing statements will be sent out from the conference, the ABC, and for applicable for insurance premium and sterling volunteers. So it shows on your invoices or your statements to see that you're being charged for each services. And each statement and invoice should be mailed out by the 5th. So you should be receiving the statements pretty soon, this week actually. And
They've
statements
already
are,
been mailed, Mr. Orr. Is that what you're saying?
yes, they're
Okay.
being mailed as we speak today, or it should be mailed by today or tomorrow, because today is actually
Because today's the 6th. So you
The
said by the 5th. So I figured you meant they were mailed last week or something.
no, they should be mailed by tomorrow.
Okay.
And on the statements, it should also have a breakdown from year to date information. So it's from this year's January to today. And if you actually need any other breakdown from previous years, please feel free to call me, and so I can actually give you a breakdown of a previous years, so we can know how much you actually owe for each from previous years. Also, as I'm talking about this, if you have any questions about your statements, please feel free to actually contact me so we can both review it and see if the billing is accurate. And on the screen, you'll see my name and my extension. So feel free to call me if you have any questions further about your statements, your invoices, sterling volunteers, and any other questions. And then for the ABC questions, please contact Ms. Sylvia Coleman at 404-799-1003. Is there any other questions?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have 30 minutes. Unfortunately, we have 25 right now for lunch. We'll be back on this same platform at, of course, 12 o'clock. It will not be a duplication. We're going to pick up. We'll start with auditing. But what I will do, I think I want to start with, because there were some questions, I want to pull the sheet to show on the screen how to import from Adventist Giving to Jewel. And then we'll pick up with our auditing. That's Mr. Orr again. And then we'll flow into locally funded, church renovation projects, church property, commercial property, insurance, all of those wonderful things. Hopefully we can get through everything, but if not, we're here every day, Monday through Friday. So please enjoy your lunch break. We'll see you later, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
you.
Yeah, you got it back on?
We want to thank Mr. Tim Aludaru for providing us with that wonderful background music as we prepare to start our second session. Thank each of you for joining us. And we want to start exactly at 12 o'clock because we know that we have a lot of more information for you. I hope you enjoyed your lunch. I'd had time to eat a banana and drink some water. So hopefully you had time to get more than that with us, but we are grateful for all those that have joined back with us. We're gonna pick up, as I shared, we're gonna pick back up on the request. There were some that were asking about how to import from Adventist Giving into Jewel. And so as we prepare to start, I do want to open up with the word of prayer. Sister Vanessa, would you open us up with the word of prayer, please? Just invite Christ again, would you please? Thank you so much.
Let us pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for the day. Thank you for our treasurers as we're about to start again. We're asking you for guidance and for your Holy Spirit. May you continue to bless us in our work for you. Bless whatever we say and do. In Jesus' name, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. I know there were a couple of questions as we shared in our previous session relative to, well, how do I import from Adventist Giving into Jewel? As we shared, as a part of our resource packet, there is information there. I just wanted to share it with you right quick so you can see it. If everyone can see my screen, please. You are able to see the information that we're going to be giving to you. The Adventist Giving direct import instructions. It's about 13 pages, so it's not a one-sheeter. So as you follow the instructions, it gives you the information as to how to import directly from Adventist Giving into Jewel. And so for those individuals, you want to follow these instructions. It is a part of the resource packet that we are providing to you. And now that we have the resource packet up, I will just scroll through here so that you will see the different steps for importing into Jewel, as you see here. So there are a couple of steps. You see there's a button that says import and offering. You're importing from Adventist Giving. If you don't have the latest version of Jewel, we can also send to you the latest version so that you have the most current one in case that button is not available for you. And you can import, once again, as we said, directly from Adventist Giving into Jewel. And so as we shaded, there are a couple of pages. It's 13 pages. I'm scrolling a little slow so that you can at least visually see it. But once again, please know that you're going to get this resource packet. It's going to be uploaded into the chat room so that you will have this information. We'll share with you how to download so that you can have all of that and be able to actually do this process of importing from Adventist Giving directly into Jewel. For those that did have a question as you're seeing it, I hope this will be helpful. Are there any more questions you may have about importing from Adventist Giving into Jewel? Feel free to throw them out right now if we can answer them. But if not, we'll continue to scroll so that you can just see how that process should work. And we'll go from there because we have a whole lot more information that we want to share with you guys. But feel free if you have a question to jump in right now relative to importing from Adventist Giving into Jewel. Okay, well, we're gonna just go ahead and scroll to the end so that you can see what that looks like as you've made your deposit into Jewel, and then you're done. And while we have this open, I just want you to see the resource packet. You do see on the left-hand side that you have a number of different files or applications that are available to you. At the end of our presentation, you will see that list of information that's going to be given to you. But we hope that it is a helpful packet for you. There's a lot of information in it, so please use it at your leisure. And if you have questions on anything, feel free to email us and we will be happy to assist you. We're going to pick back up on our presentation. We're starting with auditing. And so we're going to pick right back up from there. So Mr. Orr was actually presenting. We are going to go to auditing, and we are going to start there. So Mr. Orr, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we will keep it going. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us.
One more time, my name is Kelton Orr, the accountant for South Atlantic. And if you have any further questions, please just raise your hand, and Miss Marquita and Vanessa will also acknowledge you and to let me know if you have a question. Also, if you have a question, you can put it in the chat and they'll also let me know what's your question. So as we continue on, we're talking about auditing. So auditing, the auditing service. Audit is important to your church as it provides credibility to set the financial statement. And it gives the church members confidence that their account is true and fair. And it can also help improve a church internal control system. So backstory. So for me in college, I had an internship as a as an auditor, and I went out to different various churches to do auditing. And what we have to do is to make sure that what you're recording in your ledger or on Jewel matches up with the bank. So we come in as auditors to make sure everything is correct and up to date. So when we're ready to actually give you your notice, we'll let you know how good you're doing and also what other works you need to implement to make sure the auditing process is fair and good next time that you're being audited. Next slide, please. So the auditing process. The first thing we as a conference will be doing is we're going to be contacting every single church treasurer and pastor to let you know that we're going to start the auditing process. And then the next part, we'll be sending an engagement letter. Next part is the engagement letter. The engagement letter is sent out to every single church, dating and letting you know when are we planning to do your audit. So to be prepared on what you actually need to have together. So when we're ready to audit your church, that we'll be ready. So the audit starts. And what do? We review the bank reconciliations, the deposits, and the check written to the match the financial reports provided. So basically, we're trying to make sure that what's happening in your bank, the bank statement matches up with the ledger, right? So as we make sure everything reconciles and if the whole thing is clear, we'll also, at the end of it, we'll come up with the exit interview. So we basically speak to the pastors and the treasurer about what we found in the final audit report and let you know what needs some work and what you did a good job on. Next slide. So why is audits necessary? So audits are necessary to verify the financial records of the local church/schools that is kept in accordance with the conference accounting manual set by the SDA church, which applicable to local church/schools, which is verifications. Next slide. To verify the incoming funds properly received and recorded according to the donor's designation. So we're just trying to make sure that every single fund that the church received goes to the proper place. So once you record it, then we can see, okay, this is where each fund is going to, and then what's the purpose of it. Next slide. To verify the outgoing funds that are properly distributed and recorded according to the policy set by the conference and local church/school board. Next slide. Mitigation. To find strengths and weaknesses in the financial record so that adequate training and advice can be given. So for us, we're trying to make sure that everything is going smoothly and well with the with the church and the conference, so we can communicate better to make sure the process is actually correct and fair for both this church and the conference as you've been being audited. Next slide. So audit, it helps manage you, the church, and it helps to make sure everything's in order, and it gives you a very safe and security comfort, so that it makes sure everything is in order, and it mitigates all the risks that you receive from like any mishaps that's happening with the banks or with the church members, with the church. And it just keeps everything organized and structured. So whenever you're being ready to be audited, then everything will go by smoothly and there will be no further questions. So is there any questions that do anybody have? Please raise your hands or put it in the chat about the auditing process.
Mr. Orr, I have a question, I guess, not
Yes, ma'am.
our comment. How often should we get audited? And if I need an audit, how do I go about getting one?
So that's a good question. Every 2 years, each church is being audited. So every 2 years. So right now we're actually revamping our team. And right now we're trying to get the ball rolling. So we start auditing each church. So when you receive a notice, then we'll let you know what is required for this auditing. We're gonna need 2 years worth of financial information.
And if I want one outside of that cycle, what do I do?
If you want that, if you want to audit outside of that cycle, then you should contact me or Jay Francis or Ms. Marquita to see if you can schedule a audit for your church.
Okay, thank you. As Mr. Orr has shared, we are revamping our audit process. A number of you, we've been behind on our audits, so we are about to play catch up this year as best as we can. We've had a change in staff and we've had a change in auditors. We've had a number of different things that have happened internally, but we want to get back on track with audits. We are doing audits as we consider it. We're saying remotely. So that means that we will ask for your information. We won't come on site as we have in the past. Of course, due to COVID, as that starts to get lifted, we will see if we can get back to the in-person type of process, but we will be asking for information electronically or that you send it to us in the mail. I see a question, Brother Walter. Welcome. Go ahead.
Yes, good evening. I just want to know, I know you said you're going to need 2 years worth of data. Since we're behind, it's going to be the most recent data or where it's going to come from. So that just in case we're not all in sync with the having it in file like we have it like the last 2 years work. So what year should we look at?
So I know our typical cycle would be 2 years. Because we're playing catch up, it will actually be 2017 to 2021.
Okay.
So it's almost like a 5-year audit.
Okay.
And there is a sample engagement letter included in the resource packet for you so that you can see it. And it lists all the things that will be needed as it goes through the audit. And we're doing the engagement letter process because that's where we have made contact with the local church treasurer and pastor to coordinate the date. We're still using our field auditors, but the schedules will be maintained at this office, and we will at all times know when an auditor is at a local church. We're also estimating how much time it should take in doing the audits. Of course, we're doing 5 years, but it still could vary depending on the size of records and information that we have. If we're not able to audit a specific year, we will share that. But on the front end, as Mr. Orr was sharing, we do an interview with both the local church treasurer and pastor. So the assumption is, especially for those that are new, that information is being passed on to you. And especially for the audits, it is requested, it is suggested, it is pretty much, we say should be, that the records should be kept at the local church, not at my house as the treasurer, not at somebody else's house, so that at all times if something happens to me, then of course, the local church still has access to their specific records.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yep.
and I do see a question. What about length of time to keep tithe envelopes for auditing? Unfortunately, because we haven't audited, you usually keep your tithe envelopes at least 3 years after an audit. But what we will do is we're trying to get on track. We're going to be sending out letters actually this month to our churches. The majority of them will be done in the summer because we're going to also try to get some summer interns to assist us with playing catch up. But typically, we say to you, keep your tithe envelopes at least 3 years after the audit. So technically, if we were on track, you would have been able to get rid of 17, 18, and 19. Well, 19, you'll be getting rid of them this year because that would have been 3 years after that audit. Okay. Any
other
questions? I'm trying to see. And auditing is for you. So I want you to make sure you understand that it's not to come in and find out or to try to see if somebody says, okay, this person's stealing money. Does it reveal that if there are things that are not in place? Absolutely. It also reveals if you don't have, as this slide shows, necessary policies and procedures in place. One, internal controls. So as we were talking about before, the number of people that are counting, the timeliness of your deposits. We'll ask those questions as we're going through the audit to find out how do you manage the reports? How are you managing the resources that are in your care? And the report does go to the local church board. And so, of course, before that report is produced, we have an exit, which that, of course, is discussed with the pastor and the treasurer before. So there are no surprises. So if someone says, well, we didn't know they couldn't get the bank statements, or we didn't know they couldn't get this, no, you'll know before that's produced. Or if it shows that, well, we haven't been returning the following, or we're behind on a note, all of that will be discussed previously before we reveal the report to the local church, as well as any suggestions that are needed during your audit. So if we suggest that you may need to transition to an electronic process, or you need to use the software versus a manual system, all of that comes out of the audit. And the goal is to help you do a better job of what you are doing as a local church treasurer. It's not to point the finger, it's actually to affirm what you're doing and to reassess what can be done better. But we want to get back on track. So we wanted to make sure that you were aware, as we stated, the sample engagement letter is enclosed. Mr. Orr is one of our auditors, and Mr. J is our lead auditor. So you all, I think, are familiar with Jay Francis. He's our lead auditor. And so he will be a part of that process as well. Okay. We're going to move on now. If there are no questions on audits, we're going to move on to locally funded employees. It's Vanessa.
Thank you, Makita. Sometimes the local church will decide that they need help, they need assistance, and they will hire individuals to do the work. But the cost for LFE salaries is coming from the church, the local church. Next slide, please. Now, how to classify the worker? You have employee and independent contractor. A person is considered as an employee if you, the church, control what work will be done and how the work will be done. And the person only works for you. You control how they get paid and what they will be paid. It is a continuous relationship. Okay, like the person who cleans a church, or it can be paying a treasurer, I don't know. But an independent contractor, there is no control of what work will be done or how the work will be done, right? If the business owner or contractor provides services to other businesses, not only you, okay? Mowing the lawn and stuff like that. If it's a company that does, lawn of other places, if the work is based on a project, landscaping, maybe some I don't know, maintenance issues and stuff like that. And also for an independent contractor, there must be a written contract. Any question?
And I want to make sure, ladies and gentlemen, that we're clear on this process, because we don't want you setting up individuals as a locally funded employee and they should be an independent contractor, or vice versa.
Mhm.
You have them set up as an independent contractor and they should be a locally funded employee. Of course, IRS doesn't like it. They want to make sure that we classify people correctly, not because they're so much concerned about the worker, but there is, of course, money attached to the classifications. And so they want to make sure that that is done. I see a question before I continue to go further. Miss Vanessa, musicians, are they considered employees or independent contractors?
That's a tricky one, Makita, and I would
Yeah.
love for you to answer it.
Okay. Musicians can be tricky, but
Yes.
there is, and we have a part of the packet for you. We have that 20-point check question report from the IRS that you can use. We also have a document in the packet that says 1099 or W-2. So it helps you as well to see what category, but let's talk about it. Looking at what we have on the screen, typically a musician is an employee. Let me tell you why. You are controlling what work will be done and how the work will be done. So you say, well, what is that? What do you mean? You tell them when to play. You tell them how to play, whether you want it to be contemporary, traditional. Sometimes the musician is only playing for you. Now that's where it becomes tricky. Is this person a musician by profession? Do they play for other churches? Do they play in the club on Saturday night or on Thursday night? If they are a musician by trade, then it could transition them into the independent contractor function, even though you have an agreement with them as to when they arrive and how they play for you. Now, the difference between, once again, an independent contractor and an employee, when you are hiring someone, you tell them how much you pay for the job. An independent contractor, however, will say to you, well, it's going to cost you X number of dollars for me to do this service. You don't get to dictate what their fee will be. So that's also a indicator for you when you are dealing with musicians. Are you dictating what their pay is, or are they dictating what their pay is? And as we said, it's a continuous relationship. You still can have that with the musician, but we also still look at, they have to meet everything. So are they playing only for you? If they're playing for multiple churches, this is their profession by trade, then even though there's a relationship because you have an agreement, that does not necessarily mean they're an independent contractor. So we want to encourage you to make sure you assess the individuals that you have within your local church, if they are indeed an employee or an independent contractor. And let me share with you all that are on the call, if you are receiving funds, as we were sharing earlier, you're either an employee, an independent contractor, or you are a volunteer. And that means a volunteer with reimbursable expenses. Well, who determines what expenses get reimbursed? The local church does, because they've determined that this is a volunteer position. And they can also decide whether they want to give reimbursement for expenses for specific volunteer positions. But if they are giving you money, where we have some, so that if you're on the South Atlantic Conference payroll as a church treasurer, guess what? You are an employee, not a volunteer, not an independent contractor. You are an employee. That needs to be clarified and understood. And also the other caveat that happens is that an employee does not go through the nominating committee process. That person is hired. So I know we're in the process of nominating people and so forth. Employees don't go through the nominating committee process. They are hired and vetted through the local church board. And that means that there is a job description attached with it. You are hiring for a position. So I want to make sure we're clear about this as we move forward, because it can be tricky. And if you don't classify individuals correctly, there could be penalties for you, hence you, the local church, as well as the conference, because we did not assist you in making sure that the person was classified correctly. So we want to make sure of that. Go ahead, Vanessa.
Also, for the independent contractor, anytime somebody's getting paid $600 or more for the whole year, you need to issue a 1099 as a church.
Correct.
It's a must by law.
Must issue that 1099, which goes back to what we talked about earlier, you as a church having your own EIN or tax ID number, because that's when you're using it most of the time to open a bank account, as well as when you're doing these 1099. So a part of the resource packet as well includes a W-9, which is the form that you should be giving to all of your independent contractors so that you can get that form to them. So if I am cleaning your church, Marquita Mosley, Mosley's Cleaning Services, but you write the check to Marquita Mosley, then you need to have me sign or fill out a W-9, which gets you my tax information, so that at the end of the year, if you have paid me more than $600, you will be issuing me a 1099, which is due to the IRS before January the 31st. So I just want to make sure, because I was talking to someone yesterday. They called me like midday. I'm serious. It was probably like 3 o'clock. And they said, I have a question. And I was like, okay, I'm trying to fill out this 1096. I'm wondering, and I would be honest with you guys. I said, why are you filling it out today? You know, that's what I said. Because I was like, I'm not understanding why we're doing it today, but okay, you're doing it. So I'm trying to get it done. I said, okay. But they were a little late. They were like, I'm just trying to make sure we follow the rules of the process. You want to make sure you get everything filed in a timely manner. January 31st is when all that stuff should be taken care of. That's receipts to your donors, as well as the 1099s to all of your independent contractors. Any questions before we move on to how the locally funded employee relates to the conference office and what information you need to send us? Anybody confused? Or hopefully we gave some clarity on how to classify a worker. I see a question. What if it has not been done for years? Well, don't go back, because what you haven't reported has not been reported. So we don't want to, tell any fibs, but the only way, unfortunately, that the IRS would know that an individual made some monies is that a form is filed on their behalf. That's how they know how much you made as a W-2. Your employer has to file that, or if you got income from someone else, if somebody files that, that's the only way they know. So some of you may have been, may have received something from the IRS that says, wait a minute, we got notification that you made more money than you actually filed for. That's because somebody was late in filing your tax forms for you. And you're like, I didn't get, or they didn't mail it to you, but they filed it. So what I would encourage you to do, if it has not been done, start now to do it right. This is February. I would have a meeting with all of my individuals. Well, that's my musicians, my janitor, and you may have to have separate meetings. And once again, I don't get to determine what my category is. I don't tell you, no, I'm not an employee, I'm an independent contractor. You have to make sure you assess correctly, because I can say to you, no, I want to be an independent contractor, but unfortunately, I'm really an employee. Or vice versa. I want to be an employee because I don't want to pay taxes, because as an independent contractor, you don't pay any taxes for that person. They're considered self-employed. But I want to be an employee because then you're going to pay a portion of my taxes as my employer. So I would encourage you to start now. If you know you have individuals that are a part of your team that should fall into either one of these categories, I would have a meeting with these individuals, get them set up appropriately, get the necessary information you need from your independent contractors. But first, I would have a meeting with my pastor and my finance committee to say, so here's information that I think we haven't rightly related to. Can we look over this, because we want to make sure that everything is classified correctly. Mr. Cochran. Thank you. Your hand is raised. Unmute yourself, please.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine. Thank you.
We had someone to come in and do some work for our church. The only information that I had was on the actual invoice that he gave me. It was a contract, but it didn't have a EIN number on it or anything of that sort.
Mhm.
And it was very hard to get in contact with this person after they did the work.
Mhm.
I was unable to get the 1099 to that person. So what do I do
So
with
you
that?
did one for them, but you don't have their EIN number. And did you
Yes,
submit it to the IRS?
we already submitted to the IRS. I
So
think I
the
had,
the question that I would have is the IRS is going to have a hard time in identifying that person because we're all tracked by a number, which is, of course, our social security number, which for those of us that may have our own businesses, it can also be our EIN number. So
okay,
that's the only way they track us to relate to whether Marquita made extra income somewhere or not.
okay,
So what I would suggest going forward is that before you pay an individual, you
mhm,
need to make sure you get that information. And I would share that with my ministry leaders. If somebody's, let's just say, for example, they're bringing me in to speak. Let's say I don't work for the conference or whatever, because we don't pay conference people. You can give them gratuity. They shouldn't ask for it. It's up to you what you give. I'm just a commercial because we
okay,
pay our employees. So needless to say, if I didn't work for the conference and I shared with ministry leader for stewardship that they want to bring me in and my fee is $500 or my fee is $750, then what your ministry leader needs to know is that the guest speaker or that speaker needs to complete a W-9 before we can issue that check to them.
okay, there'll be nine form.
And even if it's somebody coming in to do work, I would share with my pastor, my deacon, my elder, especially if it's, Marquita Mosley, who I replace roofs. But once again, you write into my name, or it's Marquita Mosley Roofing Company. You need me to complete a W-9. And that's not something that's foreign to vendors. They're familiar with it. If they refuse to complete it, then we need to refuse their services.
Okay, got you.
Okay. And that's
Thank you.
if you pay somebody $600 or more. So what we do at the conference is that on the front end, we get it, even if we're not giving them 600 or more. And we do that because let's say I may call Marquita in today and Marquita's only getting $100. Well, then ministry leader or department number Y may call Marquita in and then she gets $200 later in the year. By the end of the year, she's been contacted a number of times to come back and do different things. And by the end of the year, you have written me a total of or more than $600. So don't base it on just one request. I would say or suggest, especially for those independent contractors and vendors that are doing services for you. Now, if it's Sherwin-Williams Painting Company, they don't have a problem giving you their EIN number, but you will not be issuing them a 1099. That is an actual business. It's only when it's an independent contractor, somebody who has their own business.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, thank you.
You are welcome. I had another hand. I don't see it now, so I apologize. If you still have your question, please go ahead.
It's Babs Williamson. You
Okay,
had a
thank
question?
you, Kelton.
That was me. I purposely put it back down because I'm going, yeah, I need to talk to somebody one-on-one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. That's, I'm like, yeah, I need to talk to somebody one-on-one because I'm having some issues that I need done.
That's what we're here for. So please,
Okay.
I hope let us know and we will set up a time where we can reach out to you absolutely to handle whatever your questions may be or concerns. So by all means, that's what we're here for, to help work through those challenges. Well, if we're clear on the classifications and so forth, Vanessa's going to go forward and tell you. So what happens now that you found out you have an employee? Because remember, the conference, everything is deeded and titled in the name of the conference, and the conference is the lowest corporate entity, which means that anytime you hire someone at the local church level as an employee, by default, they're an employee of the conference. That's why we call them locally funded employees. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead with Vanessa, so go ahead.
So therefore, before the start date, don't send the timesheet to the conference if you have not talked to the HR department. Anytime you want to hire somebody, all new LFE hires must go through Dr. Lamb, who is the HR director. And then this is his information. Contact him. You need to have a conversation with him about the new hire. Okay. I will not process any payment, any check for somebody who has not been vetted by Elder Lamb or HR. Okay. So the documents that we need to pay an employee, we need a 99 updated one. W-4, we need timesheet. We need the payroll remittance sheet and the proof of payment. Timesheet, you cannot just scribble something on a piece of paper and send to us. It is a legal document. You cannot be, just because you send money, we are going to pay that person. We need all that in order to process payroll for a new hire. So timesheet, we need timesheet for every pay period. We pay twice a month, semi-monthly. And we expect to see the timesheet, the payroll remittance sheet, and the proof of payment, which can be a copy, or if you are on ACH, even better, to make the process seamless and easy. Next slide, please.
Can I just add to what you
Go
said
ahead.
about the timesheet? As she stated, it is a legal document. So I want to reference again because I've seen this. So the church treasurer, if you are the employee, or it could be the secretary or the janitor that we're paying, there needs to be an actual timesheet where they're clocking out. And some people are just excellent with their time, but typically it should not be set where it's just 7 to 3 automatically. I probably clocked in at 7:01. I clocked out for lunch at 11:22. It can't be so exact. It has to be the actual time. And for those that we need you to actually have a timesheet. So in essence, you need to be filling it out. If you're not clocking in at the local church, your timesheet should be written and someone should sign off on it in addition to the employee. That once again gives transparency and checks and balances. So as the local church treasurer, if I'm the secretary, then maybe it's the pastor that's signing off on my time. Then it comes to the treasurer, or maybe the treasurer signing off on the time, because the local church should have already defined what that job looks like. So as a secretary, I can't decide that I'm going to be working 40 hours a week. No, you've said that this is a 20-hour-a-week position. Therefore, when I'm doing my timesheet, it should reflect what you have said you need. If it goes over, if it changes, someone should know why I worked 30 hours that week versus the 20. And that person is the one that is approving my timesheet. So I wanted to stress that because once again, it's legal. OSHA, our Department of Labor, can come in and audit us. And if they see that, oh, you're just writing, I mean, these are timesheets that have been pre-developed. We just pull them from a file each week because we've already pre-filled them out. No, that should not be the case. So we need for you to help us out. Make sure your employees are actually filling out that timesheet because it's a legal document and we must pay them according to the timesheet, not your payroll summary sheet, but the timesheet. So the two should match.
And we need the employee's signature as well. Sometimes the church treasurer or whoever just put the name of the person on the timesheet. This is not appropriate.
I saw a question. I'm sorry if you have it. Kelton, did you remember who that was? Or do we need to, we can go forward if you no longer have a question.
Okay, so church treasurer does not write employee the check?
No, if it's an employee. So that's where, once again, we have to make sure that this is an employee. If it's an independent contractor, then yes, the local church treasurer does write the person the check. So I'm looking in the chat. It sounds like, I guess we need to figure out, is your musician, do they play for multiple churches? Or do they play only for you?
Yes. No, they play for many other churches.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it sounds like they would probably be an independent contractor.
Contractor.
Is there a contract with this musician?
From us?
Dr. Moses, you have a contract with them?
No,
Maybe you need to.
Did they
Wait.
tell you how much they
No.
charged? You told them how much you were paying. I mean, and sometimes you don't, but how did that work?
He negotiated.
Okay, he negotiated. So, you know, independent contractors can do that. They can say, well, I'll give you a discount on my service fee, but this is what I charge. So there should be for every independent contractor, as I said before, there needs to be a contract because that
Okay,
defines the
so-
relationship. That way, I can't just decide to not show up.
Right.
And that's if it's an ongoing relationship. Now, of course,
Yes.
independent contractors are typically those that are just doing a service unless you have a contract with them. So that's like the plumber, as we said, the lawn care person, unless you decide to get a contract with them. And as you said, you have a musician where you saying, here's what we need. And they're like, here's what I can provide to you, but here's what it costs.
Right.
Okay, so we want in all contracts, I'm gonna say that again later on, all contracts must run through our legal team. All contracts, no matter how small, no matter how big, it's for your protection and for our protection as a conference. For our protection as a conference. In a second, okay? Go ahead, Ms. Vanessa.
Okay, now, as I said before, LFE remittance form and timesheets are required for all employees that are hourly or salary. If paying by ACH, please indicate on your remittance form that, you know, that you are paying by ACH. So now, if you have an employee working more than 30 hours a week, that means that person is eligible for healthcare benefits that you at the local church will have to pay. And the charges they are as follow. For the employee only is $620. Employee and spouse, $1,034. And $1,175 for family. In addition to other benefits, because 30 plus hours per week means that person is full-time, is considered full-time. And as a full-time employee of the South Atlantic Conference, you're eligible for benefits and other benefits like basic life insurance. You will have to pay $14.15 per employee. Long-term disability, workers' comp, all of that. The costs will come out of the local church. So anytime if you are hiring somebody, you need to be clear about the hours, the number of hours they have to work or they will be working. That's why Merkida says, if the person is working more than the scheduled hours, somebody needs to know why. Okay, because
that's what we go back to, like Vanessa said, the local church defines that schedule for that employee. And we're obligated to monitor. Vanessa processes our locally funded employees. She shares with my office and HR if an employee is working beyond what you have said they should be working at, because by law, we automatically, after a look back period, have to notify you if this person is eligible for benefits. So can they work over their hours? Absolutely. There may be a project or something happening. We're concerned about them doing it on a weekly basis where it becomes the norm and not the exception.
yes, and it does carry cost for the local church.
Correct.
Okay?
And that's what we want the local church to make sure that you're classifying your people appropriately. And if it is a part-time or a full-time locally funded employee. Go ahead, Vanessa.
Yes, we process payroll twice a month, semi-monthly. So all payroll documents are due on the 2nd and the 18th each month, okay? payday usually on the 10th and the 25th. You must submit all payroll documents, timesheets, payroll remittance sheet, and proof of payment. It's best to send it to submit those documents via email. And my email is listed there as fgarcia@saccsd.org. Please be on time because deadlines are deadlines. And if you are having issues, please let us know in advance so we can make plans. I think this is it for me. If you have any question, please, this is your time now.
Yeah, any questions before we transition? Because we're moving away from this. We're about to start talking about risk management, building projects, all of the above.
I guess we could.
All right. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. Sorry, guys. Here we go. Risk management. It is imperative, as you all know, we actually do have risk management in our office. Francine is our risk manager. And risk management is pretty much just a process that we use to manage potential risk and in order to minimize the negative impact that it could have on the local church or the conference. So we have a number of processes in place that helps us deal with that. So let's look at this 5-step process that we use. We identify risks and then we analyze them, prioritize the risks based on the objectives, then we treat and respond to them, and then we monitor the risks as we can. A number of you are probably familiar with the term safety officer. That is why we have a safety officer assigned to every church. The local church treasurer, you may be the safety officer. Sometimes the roles are split where you are managing the risk, whereas there's someone else identifying the risk. And so today we want to help you do that part. As you know, there are a number of areas what happens to us as a church, but here are the top reasons our churches end up in court. And here are some areas we want you to look at. Number one reason, sexual abuse of a minor. That's been the number one challenge that churches have dealt with over the last 10 years. The second one is property disputes. We've had those, that was 2015, personal injury, where individuals are falling or slipping or snagging or getting themselves hurt on our property. Zoning, those are issues that we've had where the churches has ended up in the court where it's like, well, no, we thought this was our property line. No, we thought this was our property line. And then lastly, insurance coverage disputes. But the main three for us as a conference, as well as a world church, is sexual abuse, property disputes, and personal injury. Those have been our three areas. So as you know, Adventist Risk Management is the official company that manages risk for us as a world church. It is also called Gen Con. Gen Con is the arm that's, of course, the business side that manages it for us. It is an organization that is owned by the world church. And according to Risk Management's website, their job is to protect the ministries of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church with insurance and risk management solutions. So how are they doing that? Well, as of 2022, the NAD has laid out a number of initiatives. They want to emphasize creating opportunities for organizations to have risk management in their areas by what? The following: having relationships, informal relationships with those various ministries within your church. So local church treasurers, why are we telling you this? It, of course, if you put these initiatives in place, it can impact the value of the premium that you have as a local church. Also, cyber risk awareness. It's important that we are aware, especially in these times, of the risks that we have with cyber space. There's so many people now using technology. This meeting that we're even on ourselves, you notice you had to register. That was to help minimize the risk of having hackers or people just join our meeting by choice so that they could share information. As a local church, you want to make sure that those things are happening, even with the information that you're getting, how you're doing business. Are you paying bills on your phone? Is it a church computer or a local computer that you yourself own? How are you managing the church's information to make sure that it is not at risk? And then protecting the vulnerable. We consider the vulnerable from an insurance perspective, children and our seniors. We want to make sure that they're not being abused or taken advantage of. And that's where we put in place or make sure that the necessary policies and procedures are in place with our ministries to make sure that we are doing that. So that, of course, could look like, as we're sitting at the board as a church treasurer, you need to ask the following. Well, if there's an activity that's going on, who are the chaperones? How will you get there? Who's driving? All of those things need to be identified so that we can help to manage it, not just for our children, but for all of our activities as we have them. And then we encourage you as local church treasurer to, as well, in addition to the safety officer, sign up for the Solutions e-newsletter. It, of course, allows you and provides information on risk management and other resources. So let's talk about the different solutions that are provided. Commercial policies. We have property, general liability, commercial auto, and group coverages. As you know, or maybe you did not know, for the year of 2021, 2022, the conference actually covered the cost of insurance premiums for all of our churches and schools. Insurance premiums that relate to property and general liability specifically. If you owned an auto, the local church was responsible for paying that premium directly. It was attached to a request, which is why we're asking you to make sure you're familiar with these items. There's something called a statement of values. We're going to go over that, as well as a VERISC report. We encouraged all of our churches to review those two documents because we were notified by risk management that at least 80% of our properties were undervalued. What does that mean? When you are getting your property coverage, we automatically have our churches at replacement cost. Replacement cost means that the insurance will replace your property at the value that it is worth today. Well, the insurance company is not doing assessments every year. They're depending on you or us to share with them that here is what the appraised value of my property is. Well, risk management does do a 5-year survey. So every 5 years, our properties are surveyed to tell us what the value should be. That survey happened this past summer of 2021. Hence, the notification came that about 80% of our churches were undervalued. So we decided as a conference, we need to help our churches get revalued. So that's where the idea came from. Let's pay our premiums for our churches. And then as they go through the revaluation process, we're asking the local church to be responsible for any increase in premiums relating to the revaluation of their property. I hope that makes sense. We want to talk about this a little bit more because we want to make sure everybody has clear understanding of that. So property, liability, auto, and group coverages. So there's some forms in our resource packet that will allow you, if whenever you add a property or delete a property, well, how do you add a property? You may have bought a new piece of property, or you added a fellowship hall, meaning you built something on your premises. You want to use the addition form to make sure that that piece of property is covered. Well, you sold some property, or a fire occurred and it was totally demolished. You need to fill out the deletion form to remove that property from your policy. Then there's a property claim form. Well, there was a tornado and some of the shingles got blown off my roof, and now we're getting water leaking into our church. You need to file a property claim form. And we encourage you that after every storm, have your safety officers do an assessment. What we're finding out is that our churches are finding things out too late, and the insurance company is saying that's no longer a claim, that's more maintenance on the church side. So we encourage you to do those types of reviews so that the coverage that we're paying for can actually service you. Accident and incident report. This is for liability. We tell you on the front end, don't tell anybody. Oh, we have insurance, we'll take care of it. No, you want to assess the issue if something happens. And once again, if somebody slips or falls, or if something happens to someone on your parking lot or on your church facility, if we've had situations where the light fixture fell out of the ceiling on somebody's head, we need to assess that. We don't need to automatically say, oh yes, we need to cover that, or somebody slipped, or that's what they said they did. Did they slip because we had water on the floor, or did they slip because, today Marquita was wearing 6-inch heels and she did not know how to walk in them? Who was responsible for that? So that's where we assess that. We still do the incident report, but we don't automatically assume liability. And that's where the report comes in. The same applies to the auto claim form. You want to fill the form out to see who liability should be assessed to. Okay? And then this is a new policy that we are actually applying for. Cyber liability, we've already talked about it, but of course it relates to, as we said, data hacks, cyber ransom, virus attacks, vandalism, and system sabotage. And this also covers you as a local church. We want to make sure you put the necessary things in place to make sure that nobody ransoms your specific data for the local church or for a member or any of that type of information. Okay, I know that's a lot. Anybody have any questions as we go forward with how policies renew and what you need to do, as we've been talking about all of that property information? Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Thank you.
This is Dr. Moses.
Yes, ma'am.
What do we do? I think we've talked about this before, because we have a bus that we are really trying to get rid of. We've turned in the tags and everything, but we are still paying insurance on it. And we've been trying to get rid of that insurance forever.
Okay, does the bus sit on your premises?
It still does.
So the coverage that you will be required to pay, even though you're not using it, is liability coverage. They consider that an attractive nuisance, is what they call it. And they want you to have liability coverage for the purpose of, if anyone gets on the bus and gets hurt, some kids get on it and they're playing, or something else happens, how secure do you have it? So are you able to sell it at all?
We're in the process of selling it now. We think we have a buyer, but we're not sure. But we haven't used the bus since right before COVID. And, we got rid of we turned in the tags and we sent the information in. But I'm a new treasurer, so a lot of information wasn't turned into me. And so, I was going back and forth between risk management and you all's office trying to figure out who I'm supposed to tell what to. And so we finally got all of that straightened out. So now it's just a matter of selling it and then giving you all whatever you need so that to know that the property is no longer there.
I'm sorry for your experience that information wasn't transferred to you. I apologize. Francine is our risk manager. And the way to make adjustments, as we just shared on the previous slide, I just want to go back just so that you know, you want to use this right here. Hopefully you can see my mouse. Addition or deletion of property. That's also for auto. You have to fill that form out. So what we should say to you once you reach out to us to say, hey, I've just sold a vehicle, or I just sold some property, our next statement needs to be, well, thank you for the notification. We will be sending you a form that allows you to delete that piece of property or vehicle off of your policy. You will need to tell us the date of, so that way the insurance premium can be adjusted for that time. So in essence, if I sold my vehicle January 31st, I am filling out a deletion form for the vehicle, and the date of sale would be January 31. Then the insurance premium would be prorated to relate to that, because right now I've been billed for the whole year of that policy. Same would apply to property, but we have to fill out the deletion form, even if the insurance pays a claim, which is weird, but this is your process. Even if they pay a claim for total loss, whether that's on property or auto, we still have to fill out the deletion file or application in order for it to be removed. So what I would encourage you, if you guys are selling it, please let us know once it's sold. We can also check your policy. You can look at it as well to see if you only have liability coverage.
Right.
That, of course, once again, is what we call the statement of values that breaks down for you exactly what is being covered. That's both your property and your auto policies. And you
Okay.
want to review those. So we send those out in the month of July. July, that information goes out to usually is who we have on file, but it's usually a treasurer. Sometimes it can be your pastor. And so we want to make sure we have the right contact individuals so that they're reviewing these documents, because what happens if changes are not made to the statement of values before the renewal, then the insurance policy is written based on previous statement of value. So the assumption is that if you owned a house, a church, and a community service center, and you sold one of those and you did not say anything, you didn't change the statement of values. And we're also trying to streamline our process in the office, because all sale of property or purchase of property should once again go through our secretariat's office. And if that happens, we're saying we need to be notified, which is then where we say we need to have this form filled out to help facilitate the process. But we're asking you during the renewal process, which starts in July, to review the statement of value. We call it SOV. So you may hear us say the SOV is getting ready to go out. Review that to make sure that it is reflecting the property that you currently own and property that you just bought. Okay? And if
Yes,
the
ma'am.
values are not right, we need to update them at that point as well. And the values mean content value, not just the value of the property, because if you need to schedule your property, if you need to schedule what's inside, you want to do that, especially if you have a grand piano, or a major type of organ or something, or you have a sound system that you just invested in, or a security system you just invested in. You want to schedule those things, because that will be above and beyond the value of your property. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? So renewals are coming up. We know that. So you're going to be getting this document, and we usually ask you to respond to say nothing needs to be changed or everything is good. And at that point, that's what we submit to risk management on your behalf as a local church. Okay. Sister Williamson. Yes, ma'am.
So should that document be kept in with the treasury stuff? Should it be somewhere like with the minutes, that kind of stuff?
I would keep it with my treasury documents. It should also be a part of the church minutes as well, because if you all voted to sell or buy a property, that should have gone through the church minutes. And then you as a church treasurer, you're submitting an update to insurance. So that way the church is not wondering, why did our insurance premium go up? Well, guys, we just bought new property, or it went down because we sold property. So it should go through the church. It should be a part of the clerk's records. But I would also encourage our treasurers to keep a copy of that change form on file as well, so that you know that something should be changing as relates to your premiums, whether they're going up or down because a change has been made.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Now, I want to talk about fraud for a second. Our insurance covers fraud as well, and I'm going to be transparent with us as a group of treasurers. Have we had fraud in South Atlantic Conference? Yes. And I'm talking about fraud at our local churches amongst our treasury teams, which is why we do the background checks, as well as why we have the bond in place. So none of us are exempt from that process. even people committed to high moral standards, as it says here, could find themselves in a fraud situation. So let me share with you why some fraud happens. Lack of internal controls. There is an override of existing internal controls. We're going to vet some of these. Lack of management review, poor tone at the top, incompetent oversight, lack of independent checks and audits, lack of employee fraud education, lack of clear lines of authority, or lack of reporting mechanisms. What we've noticed in our churches is that we tend to fall into the first bracket here of lack of internal controls. And that's what we were discussing earlier, that we want to make sure as a local church that you work with your finance committee to put those internal controls in place. And we also have seen the override existing internal controls. So you may have controls in place, but it's Marquita. She doesn't have to submit a check request. We'll just reimburse her, or she doesn't have to fill this out. We can bypass that specific process. Or as someone shared earlier, well, Marquita's not here. We're going to just pull Vanessa in to count money for the next 6 months. We're not going to take her name to the board. She's been a member of our church for a while. She does great. We're just going to pull her in and let her do what we need to have done. That, of course, can contribute to fraud happening within our local churches. So I'm encouraging each of you, first and foremost, make sure you have checks and balances for yourself. I will share with you that here at the local conference, I don't write a check, I don't sign a check without there being someone that knows about it. Every check request that comes into our office has to be approved and coded properly before it is processed. For our payrolls, we have a whole system set up there because we have experienced fraud. So nobody gets added into the payroll system, meaning if there's a name that shows up on the check register, we don't have a problem sharing who that name is and what entity they work for, or what company this is that did this specific work for us. We want to be fully transparent at all times. You never want to sign a check to yourself. That, of course, could make it look like you are operating by yourself, in and of yourself. You want to make sure the minutes of the local church reflect it, and that the pastor or the clerk is signing off on the check request every time you are writing yourself a check, if you are the only person that signs checks. But you want to make sure that those windows of transparency are open, because there is room for things to happen. So here's where we see the red flags when things happen. As you see here, 45.8% of it, people living beyond their means. So what we've seen, as Vanessa was mentioning way early in the beginning, well, I've gotten this huge home. Me and my husband had jobs, but now our lifestyle has changed. Finances aren't coming in like they were before. And yeah, I have access to this, so let me just pull a little bit over here. And I plan to pay it back. And before you know it, you've pinched here, you've pinched there. No, that's where those policies and procedures for checks and balances come into place. You don't even have room to do that. And can we prevent fraud? No, if somebody wants to steal, they're going to find a way to steal. But you can definitely put some roadblocks in place to keep having them to figure out another way to do it versus just having the door wide open. Hence, as we talked about the monies, we want to make sure that the money goes into a safe as soon as it is received. There is no one person, the deacons shouldn't be able to just carry the money and it's cash and nobody can see, because guess what? We've had cases where Deacon X is walking and Deacon's X hand slides right off top, and cash, because we can't trace it, goes right into their pocket. And there's no record of it until I say, hey, my tithe receipt shows that I only gave this amount of money, and I know I gave this amount, which is where you need to educate your members, encourage them to utilize the tithe envelope even when they're giving cash. That way it can be recorded appropriately. But we see red flags for fraud, for financial difficulties. or you're controlling issues of unwillingness to share duties. So, or somebody feels like they're owed something. Well, I've been the assistant treasurer forever, and I'm doing all the work, and the treasurer just does nothing. Well, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to pay myself. They were supposed to pay me. No, we need to fix that. So if you have scenarios of that way, then let's work on correcting those issues. If there's someone that you've written a check to and they did not give you a receipt, you don't write another check till you get a receipt. That's your process. You don't reimburse individuals without a receipt. You want to follow your policies and your procedures so that you can avoid scenarios that could create fraudulent activity. I don't want to pressure this too much, but I want to make sure we are clear because it is happening within our church. We want to set up whatever we can to assist individuals that may be dealing with those scenarios as best as possible. That's also where, as ministry leaders, they should not be opening bank accounts for their own ministries. That's why you as a treasurer are the designated fiduciary individual for all funds to run through. But we have internal controls to monitor that. But you don't want me saying, well, I gave my money to Vanessa for the Family Life program, and she said she was giving it to you guys as a church. Within the treasurer, you're like, well, I only received $100 from Vanessa. And I'm like, I've given her $50 every month. What are you talking about? You can't govern what's not coming through the process that the church has put together, which is where you make sure your people know what that process should be. Time is not on our side, ladies and gentlemen, so I am going to move forward. If you do have questions, though, we're going to stop and ask them because we're here to serve you. So I want to talk about church property and all of that. So here is where we're going to talk about new construction, purchases, sales, renovations, rent, lease, and all of the above. Okay. So building projects. In the resource packet, we have for you a checklist that relates to if you needed to purchase, sell, build, or renovate your existing property. You want to determine what type of project your church will engage in, whether it's new construction or not, the purchase of a new property, sale of current or old, and if you're renovating. So if you are doing new construction, here's what you need to do. And we're going to go a little quickly as we go through these areas, but these are the steps that's needed. And as I shared, there is a checklist that is available for you. You must get church approval for new construction. If you're adding a wall in the church, you got to make sure that you say, Pastor, this is the church, even though it's in the treasurer's office or the pastor's office, we need to bring this to the church and business meeting so that they know that we're making adjustments to our current structure, or if we're adding a whole new wing. We want to determine the financial health of the church. Can we afford it? And if so, how are we going to pay for it? Are we going to pay cash, or are we going to be borrowing money for this new construction? So once you've made that determination, who signs and approves the contracts? Well, the conference will share with you where that should fall. We will help you find out who signs and approves. There are some contracts that we will say the local pastor can sign, but we have to share that with you, not that determined by the local pastor. What type of insurance should your contractors have? Want to make sure that, once again, that's why the contract is so important. If somebody is working at your church and they get hurt, if it's a member, which unfortunately we've had those situations where, once again, I say, oh, I can fix that. I do home improvement, or I do this, that, whatever. So I decide to come to the church on Sunday and make some fixes for you, but I fall off the ladder. Well, who's responsible for that? Because as a member, I was just covering for you. The church is. But if you brought in a company and they fell off the ladder, then the company should have their own general liability or workers' comp, which of course covers all of their workers in doing work at your facility. New construction must be approved by the South Atlantic Conference Building Committee, Finance Committee, and the association. These are all the committees that must approve any type of new construction. If you're buying new property, some of the same steps apply. You must get approval from the church and business meeting, determine how much you'll pay for the property, determine the value by obtaining an appraisal. You must get an appraisal if you're purchasing new property, because that's going to help you determine how much you need to pay. And you must get an EPA survey. That helps us know what's the condition of the property, if it can be used, if there are mold issues, if this is on top of a wasteland or whatever the case may be. These steps must be taken as you're buying new property. You got to determine again if you're able to buy cash or if you're borrowing money, and then the contracts must be signed by the conference if you're purchasing new property. So property, once again, must be deeded and titled in the name of the conference, not by a member, not by a group of members, not by the pastor, but the conference. And then the closing date for the purchase of property must be set with conference administration. So you're selling your current property. What happens? The church treasurer or the pastor cannot just say, you know, I think we need to sell this. That's why it's in the name of the conference. There needs to be a process. So the church meets as a business session. The conference can't sell your property without your part being played in it. So the church has a business meeting. They agree that they need to sell this property. They determine the sale price, how the proceeds will be used. And then, of course, the approval of sale must be given or done by the conference association. So we work together with you, but the title and deed of the property is in the name of the conference to prevent any one member from selling property from under the local church. If you do sell your current property, we ask the following questions. Well, where are you planning to worship because you sold your property? And what will be the process going forward? Are you looking for a new building? What's happening as a local church? As we said, the sale contract, because it's deeded and titled in the name of the conference, it must be signed by conference administration, not again by anybody local. They cannot sign that. And a closing date must be set in conjunction with conference administration. Church renovations. If you are getting church renovations, once again, as we said earlier, take it through your church. As a business meeting, you want to get that done. Determine how the renovations will be paid. And you want to do your due diligence as relates to contractors. You need to make sure you vet your contractors. And we suggest that you get 3 estimates for major renovations. When we're saying major, once again, you're building a whole new fellowship hall, you're replacing your roof, you're replacing all of your carpet in the entire building, or you're doing something really major. We need you to consider 3 estimates. And then as a church, you will make a recommendation to your church as here's what we are recommending. Any contracts, once again, must be sent and reviewed by our executive secretary's office. That's our legal team. You can feel free to copy me on those as need be. We work in hand together. And the signing of the contracts, it either will come through, as it says here, conference executive or myself, and we will give you guidance on that entire process. I will share with you as well that South Atlantic Conference has an appropriation system that is available to our churches and schools. The conference will provide to you, if you are renovating your church, you can get up to 5% of the total cost of your renovations, up to $50,000. So how do you access those funds? You will need to send to us copies of receipts and copies of checks paid for your specific project. So right now we're taking projects from 2021 because that's the year that just ended. So if you had any renovations, purchased any major equipment such as a new sound system or a new security system, and you would like to act on that appropriation, feel free to send that information into my office. You can send it to me directly, and then we will process that for you. We process all of our payments now as best as we can. That's another benefit. If as a church, if you're set up for ACH, we will also send you money directly to your bank account versus writing a check. And so that, of course, alleviates time waiting on the mail. We send you an email notifying you. You still will get in the mail a notification stating that these funds have been deposited into your account. We put the money right into your account. So that's 5% for renovations. If it's a new purchase, it's a new building that you built or you bought a new building, you can get 10% of the value of the cost of that project. So we will give you 10% up to $100,000. And so if you've purchased a new piece of property, we will give to you once again up to 10%, up to $100,000 towards the purchase of that. You simply need to send to us, typically because it runs through our office anyways. We're kind of aware that, oh, Church X just bought some property. We need to give them their appropriation. Sometimes we miss it, So feel free to remind us that, hey, we bought some property, especially when you do it with cash, because we don't have to have a lot of those meetings that we have when we're borrowing monies. But you want to make sure you make an official request for the appropriation so that we have a record of it, and then we process those. As we stated, we're working on 2021. We do have a few that we're still processing from last year. So if you have submitted something, please know that we're still processing those and we'll be getting those funds out directly. I do want to mention one more thing before we go to renting of facilities or renovation. We've already said that. We also encourage you to update your insurance for any major changes in your structure. That is important to make sure that those things are covered. Renting or leasing a facility. You must get church approval again. Everything must go through your church and business session. Nobody is an island of their own. You determine the lease agreement, develop a rental agreement. We do have a template that's provided through our legal team. That, of course, if you're renting your facility, that contract must come through, once again, our office, because it is a contract. And then you want to make sure when you're renting that you are not compromising the 501c3 status. If we're considered non-for-profit charitable organizations, we have to be careful as to how we are getting additional income. And so we need to be careful as we're looking at renting our facilities. Are we renting them to other churches? Are we renting them out to schools? Are we renting them out for weddings? What is the purpose of us renting it out? Is it additional income, or is it because we're providing a service to the local community and there is a price attached to it? We want to make sure that we're not compromising our 501c3 status. And then, as we said already, it must be reviewed by our conference legal team. The renter must maintain $3 million per occurrence in insurance. And when we get their insurance, they must send to us a certificate of insurance that lists the local church, South Atlantic Conference, and the General Conference as the additional insurers. We want to make sure that that clarity is there. I also wanted to go back to our commercial policies. We did pay everybody's insurance. However, there were some churches that paid their insurance ahead of us. We paid everybody's insurance in December. Some have received their statement from November and they're sending money to risk management, or you paid it prior to December. If you paid your insurance premium, we are going to refund those monies to you. But it's connected to, once again, you doing that assessment of the statement of values and the VERISC report. So your local pastor should already be aware of that. I know we met with our treasurers before we went over that process. We are in the process of releasing those monies for those churches that did pay their insurance premium ahead of time, those that are due a refund. If after December you sent the monies directly to risk management will refund those monies to you directly. If they send them to our office, then we will notify you and send them to you directly. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I know our time is away from us. The resource packet that we're going to upload into the chat is available, and it includes the following. I did see a question earlier that said, can you mail it to us? That looks like a lot of information. And the response that I put in the chat was, we can, but I would suggest to you to download it. It is a PDF. I would suggest that you download that. Mr. Orr, can you go ahead and put that in the chat for me, please? If you would download that report, and that way, thank you, sir. That way you can have it on your computer. You can also share the file with your other local church staff, treasury staff that may be helping you. And that way they can have it. If for whatever reason you're not able to access the various items that are in the resource packet, please let us know. Here's a list of some of the items. There's more than that that's listed that's here. So we want you to take advantage of it. Please pay attention to the regional scholarship application as well as the Hispanic scholarship application. We've been notified that a number of our members or that those resources aren't being taken advantage of. And so we want to make sure that as local churches that we share with you any funds that can be made available to you. And we want our members to be able to take advantage of it. So please share that scholarship. The deadline has passed, unfortunately, but that doesn't mean that we can't apply for next year. We want you to make sure that you take advantage of it for those that may not have the opportunity this last time around. But we thank you, ladies and gentlemen, so much. This is the end of our presentation. Do you have any questions in the time that we have left as relates to anything that we've shared or anything that we need to cover? And what I also want to ask you, if you start dropping in the chat right now, are there any specific areas that you would like for us to cover in the future? We do have quarterly treasury meetings, and so we want to make our meetings more specific than general. And so if there are specific areas that you would like for our meetings to relate, feel free to go ahead and drop in the chat what those areas of concern may be, and we'll make sure that our meetings are tailored specifically to those items. But we'll open the floor up right now for any questions or comments that you may have. And thank you again for sticking with us through the second session.
This is Archie Grimble. I have a question on individuals, especially ministry leaders, the pastor, whoever, signing their own voucher for reimbursement.
Absolutely. So as a ministry leader, yes, I will sign my voucher. Are you saying I'm signing it for my team? So there's somebody on my team that is submitting reimbursement and then I sign off on it for them?
Now you're putting in for reimbursement because you spent $60 on supplies as a ministry leader.
Okay. And you're wondering who authorized or should that be happening?
Well, yeah, I'm saying I like to have a dual signature, say the head elder sign for the pastor sign for the head elder, head elder sign for a ministry leader if they're if they purchase something and asking for reimbursement.
Correct. I support that. I was about to say, I would definitely think that before it comes to you, just as a check and balance that is coming through someone else. So I would suggest as well, and it's what works at your local church, that the local elder, and typically there are, I know in some churches, there's an elder that's assigned to each ministry. Maybe that could be the person that is that check and balance for that ministry leader that says, okay, I'm submitting reimbursement. You're signing off on this before I submit it to Treasury. But definitely you don't want there to be where I, as a ministry leader, can just submit reimbursements. And then there needs to be clarity as to what it is that I purchased. And how does it apply to the specific ministry? Because that as well, we want to honor the donations that have come in from members. And it's not just to reimburse Marquita because she decided, yeah, I think that I want to buy flowers and this and that for this. Is that actually what we're doing as a ministry? So I support that. So ladies and gentlemen, let's talk with all of our teams about that check and balance, that second person that may be authorizing those vouchers that come into your office for reimbursement. Sister Laura.
My question is similar to Brother Grimble in that there are things that we may need fixed in our church, and you may have addressed this question already, but it's similar to having someone purchase something, but not necessarily wanting to be reimbursed as in that situation, but just basically wanting a tax write-off or, like how would they add that if someone went out, would they bring the receipt and then and say the church approved it or it's okay. I think in our situation, it was a computer. We needed another computer in our media room and the person bought the computer. How do we, and they don't want reimbursement for the computer. It was like $480 something. But we would like to give them a tax credit. And so it's not like money coming in where you can actually just, put that on their tax return form that you give them. But it's an item. How could it be then added unless they give the money to the church and then the church goes purchase it or put it in their account? How, you understand what I'm questioning? I'm not sure if you'd addressed that before.
I did not. So thank you for bringing that up. So it sounds like what you're saying is that I, as a church member, I know that the church needs a computer. So I go out and buy some computers and I say, I don't need to be reimbursed. I'm going to donate this to the church, but can you give me a tax write-off for this?
Correct.
You can write a letter. There's a letter. We can give you that letter. That's not a part of our packet. But because you're a charitable organization, I can donate to you that. So I would need to have the receipt that shows the value of that specific equipment that you purchased. And then show that you actually did donate it to the local church. Now we want to be clear about donations though, because donations cannot also be self-serving either. So for example, I don't need to buy a computer for the church because I need a computer and I'm using it for the church and my personal home. And I ask the church, can you give me a write-off for that? Nor do I need to give offerings through the church where I am receiving personal benefit. It's three-way scholarship time. And I know the church doesn't have enough money, so I'll say, well, I'll put in the portion for baby Marquita. And then the treasurer writes a check for baby Marquita to the conference because Marquita's mother put money in the church. That's not a donation. You should exclude that from my receipt as a part of donation because I have now gotten a personal benefit from those funds, even though I gave them through the church. So yes, we can give a letter for individuals that are donating physical items that's separate from the tithe receipt. But you also want to make sure that funds that are coming through, individuals are not giving monies where they are receiving personal benefit of those funds. I hope I answered your question, Sister Laura.
Yes, ma'am.
We'll include that sample letter for you guys. So that'll be a separate, something we'll have to send out.
Okay, that'll be great because yes, the computer is actually physically staying in the church at all times. It never leaves the church. So it was definitely for the church, but I just want to make sure, and this is going to help us also by being able to do this, to encourage people to do things that we don't have to take money, that all they want is a tax receipt, and if it's for the church, then we won't, especially with us running on low budgets, then we can, just be able to give them a letter and encourage people to do this because we are, the church is a nonprofit organization. So that's very helpful if we can get that letter to give out.
Absolutely. Now, we don't want anybody to be an Indian giver because it's not operating the way they want it now. So I'm gonna come back and get my computer. It's no longer yours, just like I can't come back and get my donations.
Right.
So make sure people understand that because we have had those scenarios where they say, well, I gave it to the church. I need it back. But did you use gave in the sentence? How did you give it if you're trying to take it back now? So as we have individuals that want to do that, we welcome those donations, but we want to make sure that they are clear about what they are doing and that once it's donated, same thing for offerings, you can't come back and say, I need my money back. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead. There was one more question.
Yes. I want to know if you may be planning to transfer membership. Do you, I don't know if you answer this question or not, I should go somewhere else, but do you continue your tithe and offering to that church you are a member of until your transfer of membership is received from the church you may be going to?
You don't have to. I did not cover that. So I'm understanding you to say that I'm in the process of transferring my membership, but the transfer has not been completed, but I am attending the new church now. Then the church where I'm attending is where I will be returning my tithe and offering. And once my membership transfer is complete, it will just solidify the membership piece, but the treasurer still would need to give me a receipt, whether I'm a member or not.
Yes. So how does that go?
If I'm understanding you correctly, it would just be like any other donor. Marquita Mosley now gives money. I write a check or I'm giving through Adventist Giving. You will set me up as a donor. You're not concerned about whether I'm on the membership roll or not. You're looking at who your donors are.
Mm-hmm.
So the donors have nothing to do with who the members are, except for when we are looking at our members to serve in ministry roles and functions. Then the question comes up, have they been faithful in returning tithe and offerings? And then that's where Treasury is able to pull their name up and look to see if said person has been returning tithe and offerings on a regular basis. Outside of that, you're giving every donor, if they provide you their name, because some people like to give anonymously, but if I'm not giving anonymously, you should have a record of the donations for every person or group that's donating money to you.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. So then if I'm transferring to another church and I start attending that church, my membership is in route. If I choose to go ahead and pay my tithe and offering at that church, I can do so, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Until, yeah, so nobody, it doesn't, but the church treasurer has to denote that, that they're receiving tithe and offering from someone who is not officially a member of their church yet. Is that right?
Yeah, but I don't know if there's that separation. I mean, we know who our members are, so if they want to say that, absolutely, but you're a donor from the Treasury perspective.
A donor, I see.
You're
Okay.
simply a donor. Now, of course, because I know you're a member, I can say, Sister Gwendolyn gives on a regular basis. We're so glad to have you. And then when I hear that your membership has been transferred, it's information, but it doesn't change me recording your donation separately as you're giving.
I see. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, okay.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to find that out. Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for sticking with us. The general session, the closing session has started now. So we are going to close with prayer. I did see a question. The resource manual is not on our website. Unfortunately, this is information that we're providing specific to you as local church treasurers. Hopefully you were able to download. If anybody's having problems downloading the file, please let us know. All you need to do is hover over the actual picture of it, click to download, and it should download on the computer that you're currently on. If you logged in from your cell phone, I would not encourage you to download this to your cell phone. It's a pretty big file. And as we said, we should be getting a registration list from our team, and we can also send it again via email. I use WeTransfer for the large files that we have, and we can send it via WeTransfer. That's also how we send Jewel. I see somebody saying, where's the icon to click on? Just hover your mouse.
I just put it back in the chat. So
Okay.
just hover around the icon and just click on it, and it should be able to download on your computer. And if you're not able to open it, that means you have to download Adobe Reader onto your computer so you can be able to look at the files, so you can go through it and print it out if you needed to. But right now I put it in the chat. I can put it in the chat one more time so you can actually you can actually download it. So I'm putting in the chat right now. All you have to do is click on it, the icon that's just put in the chat, and just open it up. And once you open it up, it will actually, if you want to download Adobe Reader on your laptop, or if it's already on there, it should automatically open up.
Marquita, where will we get the letter again for the donor, like people that are donating, things that we need in our church? Can we just use our regular donor letter that we send out at the end of the year, or use one that you said that you will add?
If you don't mind, you'll share with me whatever letter you've been using, but we're going to have to send a separate letter. That is not a part of the resource packet right now.
Okay, where will you send it? To the churches, or where?
No, we're going to email it. So as we stated, the team has shared that everyone that has registered for the various sessions, that we will have access to their email information. We also asked in our first session, so if you have not done it, please do it. We need you to email our administrative assistant, Gwen Waters, your name, if you're the church treasurer, the church you're from, your email, of course, which will come when you email, and then your date of birth. We don't need the year. We just need your date of birth because we want to celebrate with you. If you want to give us a year, great, we'll celebrate even more for you. But send us that info. Please send it to G Waters. Kelton, can you drop that in the chat right quick, Gwen's email for me?
Yes, ma'am.
And she will receive your information, but we're also, as a backup, going to be checking with the team to make sure that we have everybody that registered for and under the new treasurer's module. So
I
thank
didn't
you
realize
guys
that I hadn't,
so
I
much.
think I did mine as a new one. I mean, under the already treasured. I
That's
went in.
not a
also.
problem. They asked for the same information there.
Okay.
But if for whatever
I was
reason,
in that section for the first half.
oh,
And
you
I
were?
came to you for
Okay.
the second half. I'm like, wait,
Aw,
this is new
well, thank
treasure.
you for joining us. Shoot us, if there's anyone that's right now on that has a question that we did not cover, or once again, as we said, if there's some information that you would love to hear from us on, please shoot us an email. You can send that to Gwen, Mr. Orr. Review that email address for me, please.
I didn't see that icon either. Somebody put up there, they didn't see the icon. I didn't either.
So let's look at the chat right now. Can everybody go to
Yes.
the chat for me? The icon is there. Kelton, send that email address for me again and review it before you send it. Thank you.
So the email, I already sent the email address. The email address for Miss Gwen Water is gwaters@sac. It needs to
Yeah,
be
that's why I want
corrected.
you to review it. You're so
Yeah.
good. Thank you, sir.
Hey,
And can everybody look at the chat right now? If you're looking at it, you should see, well, the last thing now is the email. Thank you, Vanessa. Vanessa sent it for you, and Kelton did too. Awesome, guys. You see above the email, there should be a link that says 2022 SAC Local Church. Does everybody see that? You can unmute to say yes, no, maybe so.
Yeah,
No.
I saw it and I
Yes,
see
I
the
see it.
icon is there
It's
too.
good.
On my computer, the icon's there as well.
So when you hover over it with your mouse, does it say click to download?
Yeah, it clicked it on my computer, download, and gave me a green check mark.
No,
Okay.
yeah, mine just still doesn't show it. I don't know what's the deal, but yeah, mine don't show it.
So when you click on it and it says, it's downloaded, all I'm gonna need you to do is to go to File, Explore Files, and then click on Download, and then it should be around the top if you have it modified to date, the earliest date, and it should be right there in the top, and it should say 2022 SAC Local Church Treasuries.
Nope, still don't see it. I don't know what's going on, but I don't see it.
happening.
I'm not the only one that don't see it though, because I saw another message that said they didn't see it either.
Yeah, then I see
It's telling
some
me
people.
to say, it's telling me to save as.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I ain't telling me nothing. I don't see the
Aw.
icon.
You do want to save it.
I'll send an email and say, hey, send it to my email. And then that way I
Okay,
can
yeah,
go.
send us an email if you cannot download it, please. And because of the size of it, as I said, we typically use WeTransfer because that allows us to send large files. We also send the Jewel software via WeTransfer as well. But let us know and we'll be able to get it to you. There's some valuable information there. Forms, as well as we said, the remittance schedule. Just a lot of information that we did not want to just send you individual sheets. That's why we put it all together as a resource packet. And in the packet, you're able to see on the left side the different things that are there. Mr. Orr.
Yeah, so quick thing. Is anybody else able to download the packet? Just raise your hand and so I can get a count. Okay. I'm gonna put it in the chat one more time. So
Yeah, one person that was able to download it. Or that's still here, rather. So Sister Lockhart was able to download it. Thank you.
okay. Anybody else?
We'll leave it up for a couple minutes. Sister Lee, you were able to download it? Okay, good.
Mr. Girl. Anybody else?
Pastor McGraw, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Anybody else who was able to download it?
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so Brother Garner could not download it, Kelton.
Is everybody on their computers or they're on their cellular device?
I'm on my computer and I'm still waiting for it to open. It's on my desktop. I was talking about the SAC 2022 treasurers.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, it's a large file. It's gonna probably take a while depending on your computer.
yeah, it's downloaded on my desktop.
Okay.
I'll wait until I go to my desktop to do that because it's still not showing up. I don't
So
know.
you're Miss Williamson, are you on your tablet or your phone?
I'm on tablet.
Oh, that's
So I'll
why.
wait until I go onto the computer and see if I can download on the computer.
Yeah, so if everybody's on their laptop or on the desktop, you should be able to download it. But if you're on your cellular device, it's kind of gonna have a problem downloading it because it is a large file. So if anything, if you're on your iPad or your tablet, it's gonna probably open up another tab or it's gonna ask you to open it up. But since it's a large file, it's highly unlikely it's gonna actually open up on your tablets or on your phone.
My tablet is kind of picky because it ain't even showing your name come up when you
Oh,
do
goodness.
that kind of thing.
So
And Brother Orr, I see Sister Brendolyn says she's on her laptop. But Sister Brendolyn, you're not seeing the link or the icon in the chat room?
No, I'm not.
Oh, I don't know what we can do for you. I don't know. Sorry.
So
what do you see in the chat? How about that? Can you kind of see
Just only thing I can see is the when she sent Ms. Waters information.
So
what's the last thing you see?
Yeah.
Sorry, Kelton.
Yes.
The last thing I see is my email, is my chat.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And then somebody says to please email it.
So you don't see anything above it?
No.
That's weird.
Would it be because I have not re-registered for the second session?
No, that shouldn't be the case. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I'm not able to troubleshoot.
Okay, so is this the only place we can get that?
No, we can email it. So you're saying we wanted you to have it though, so that because we don't know how long it may take for us to get the information from the tech team. So we can still send it to you via email, but you would need to share with us your email information, just like Brother Garner did, so that we can send the resource packet. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, it's about that time.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said, they're having the closing session right now.
Don't worry, I'm writing all this down. So
You're writing, you getting it? Okay.
yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for hanging out with us. We pray that what we presented today has been beneficial to you as we've shared. If there's a specific area, or we'll send a survey out actually once we get your contact information as to how beneficial was the session. Was there anything that you would have liked for us to cover in more detail that we did not? And what are some areas that you would like for us to cover in the future? Please know that we do have quarterly training sessions. So our next one will be sometime in April. So please look out to receive that notification so that you can be a part of that session. We are going to try to streamline them a little bit more. So that way, if it's not something you need to worry about, you don't have to join us, or if it's something you're already clear on. But thank you guys again. We really appreciate each of you. Thank you for taking time to hang out with us today. And we are going to go ahead and close. So let's bow our heads as we pray. God, thank you so much for equipping us with the tools that we need to serve your people. And Lord, we accept the challenge today to serve as Christ would serve. So thank you in advance for what you're going to do for us as we serve over the next few years. Give us every good and perfect gift that we need, and we'll be careful to give you all the praise, the honor, and the glory. We thank you, Father, in the precious and holy name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
We typically say safe travels, but
thank you, Makita. You did a wonderful job.
Praise God. We thank you guys so much.
Quick
Thank
question.
you.
Somebody in the chat asked, could we email the Jewel software to them?
Okay.
That's-
Took a note of that. We will be using, for that person to make that request, we use WeTransfer. So look out. You'll be receiving an email from us from WeTransfer. It notifies us when you download it. So that's the method that we use to submit to you the Jewel software because of its size as well.
We make it big.
Okay. Thank you guys. Have a great evening. God bless each of you.
You too, Miss.
Join the
Audrey.
closing
Good
session
night.
if you can.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Have a good week.
Thank you. Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, Kelton. Please don't leave.
Good job, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for the info.
I just heard that closing session is done, so have a good afternoon, guys. You can log out completely. It is over. Sorry you missed it.
If you're talking to us, you're muted.
All right, give us a second. We got one more person. Miss Kimberly. There we go.
I had to remove her, guys. I wanted to copy the chat. I know you were writing stuff down, but we can copy the chat and put it into a Word document.
You can start recording this.